Chambe nifuna kuti budget bafange maningi kuma industry. Because bana bambiri bakazi bonse bangere nchito. For example, if basegura mulungushi textile, if kanjanjika ku matero bakawusha, which means bantu bazangera ku nchito. Mwamini wanasegurira ku city market, people are getting job. Mwamini wanasegura indeni na mopond mine. So we need the government to go further, because population ya Zambia ikura daily.
My expectation is that we lower the cost of living. At least the commodities of essentials intake has to be brought down, especially millennial.
The expectation about this budget, new budget that is coming in, we expect that maybe the cost of living will be definitely changing, and also when we look at fuel has really gone up for people who are traveling, and mostly just basically when we talk about the budget itself, we are talking about taxes as well. Taxes are high, especially for people who work. Taxes are very, very high. So I don't know whether this will really be tackled. We don't know, but we are looking forward and excited to see what is new.
In my case, what I would expect for the budget, if they can look into small, medium and entrepreneur businesses, because these businesses are going to inject capital in the economy. These are also going to help in reducing this problem of no jobs. A lot of people are languishing in the streets because of no jobs. When they promote these local entrepreneurs, a lot of jobs will be created, and there will be that cash flow in the economy.
Nipempa boma kuti pa chite amene ibwera ipa budget bangatione kuna ise makomboni mwamene tinkhala tivutika mvula ngati yamba kuloka vana poenda ku sukulu sibapita ni kuchita kupapa why sibatikonzera misewu vatiyanga nepo na ise.
As Center for Trade Policy and Development, we have a number of expectations. Of course, the economy has tried to balance in terms of its performance. We have seen in the first half of the year, however, some challenges in terms of resource mobilization, in terms of productivity in key sectors like the mining sector. We have also seen challenges in the agricultural sector. So as the 2024 national budget is to be presented this Friday, CTPD expects some tangible measures which should be put in place to respond to the economic challenges that have been partly faced in the mining sector. So strategies, for instance, to deal with artisanal small-scale mining, which has faced production challenges largely because of the capacity gap that is within the sector. We also expect that there has to be measures which are being put in place to address the gaps in the agricultural sector. We need to ensure that there is adequate funding to the sector.
We expect a budget that is going to actually speak to boosting the agriculture sector. So we expect more allocation on economic affairs this time around, because you cannot grow the economy without boosting the economic affairs in terms of stimulating growth. So we expect tax incentives, especially for the manufacturing sector. They have long been subjected, to high cost of doing business. I think especially during this period where we have other external factors such as the international oil market prices. So we expect that there will be some leverage in terms of taxes that will be imposed on the manufacturing sector. Because when we grow the manufacturing sector, we are actually also stimulating output in the agriculture sector, which feeds into the manufacturing sector. So we expect that as the government is also trying to boost agriculture output, there will be some tax incentives, especially for importation of agriculture equipment, so that we can go the mechanized way of production.
The first one for us is around social sector spending. I think this is an area that we are really keen to see, especially the level of investment in terms of health, education, agriculture. Those are the key sectors that we're paying attention to. We do note from the last budget there was an increase in investment into the education sector, but I think with a number of things, the introduction of the free education, we would like to see that translate into quality education. So I think there are still some gaps in that area. The health sector is another area that still remains quite challenged. There are constant cries of access to quality medical health care in terms of drugs, in terms of equipment, in terms of the actual infrastructure. So we are hoping to see just a budget that speaks more to social sector spending. We want to see a budget that is more robust around domestic resource mobilization, and here paying particular attention to the tax incentives. We would like to see a budget that is pro-domestic resource mobilization and addressing also with keen attention to the incentives that will go especially to the extractive sector. We acknowledge government's pronouncement in terms of growing the extractive sector, and so especially the mining sector within the extractive sector. So we are keen to see a budget that promotes domestic resource mobilization through taxation, and also review of the tax incentives to leave room for more income going into the economy.
Well, those are various stakeholders just sharing with us their expectations in the 2024 national budget. And later on, we'll be interacting with various members of parliament just to find out their expectations before the Minister of Finance and National Planning unveils the 2024 national budget. And any time from now, we should be expecting the minister coming in that immaculate copper briefcase. That signifies that the budget is about to be presented. At this particular time, I'm joined by Mr. Kateshi, who is Principal Clerk, Parliamentary Budget Office here at the National Assembly. Thank you so much, Mr. Kateshi, for joining us. Maybe for starters, what is your role as Parliamentary Budgetary Office here at National Assembly?
Thank you, President, and I'm glad to share views on our office and also this important day when the national budget is presented. I work, as you have mentioned, I work for the Parliamentary Budget Office, whose mandate is to support members and various other oversight committees on all budgetary and economic matters.
Okay.
So this is, in a nutshell, what our office does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what is the role of National Assembly in budget preparation? As we are talking, Mr. Kateshi, we mentioned that any time from now, the Minister of Finance will be arriving at Parliament grounds, and we should also interest to our viewers out there that the ministers are arrived, and any time from now, the budget will be presented. Maybe quickly, what is the role of National Assembly in budget preparation?
The whole budgeting process, preparation process stage particularly, is now prescribed in the National Planning and Budgeting Act. Okay, so there are various processes, and one of them is preparation of what is called the Green Paper on the Medium-Term Budget Plan. So it is at that point, at the preparation stage, where Parliament becomes visible, because the Green Paper on the Medium-Term Budget Plan is submitted to a relevant committee of Parliament for consultation.
Okay. There you have it. As you can see on your screens, that's the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning, that's Dr. Stumbeko Musokotwane, together with Mrs. Musokotwane. And I should think that should be a granddaughter there, walking majestically, and all aspirations of the Zambian people are in that briefcase where the revenue and estimates are supposed to be pronounced to the nation and to Parliament. We'll continue chatting with Mr. Kateshi, and what factors should be considered when preparing the national budget? I'm sure you've seen the minister moving immaculately with that copper briefcase.
There are various factors, myriad factors I should point out. Firstly, we have state actors themselves. Remember that under each head, there's a controlling officer. So the controlling officer has certain responsibilities regarding what should go in the budget. And then the law also allows non-state actors, okay, to also make input into the budgeting process. Then there are also global developments which affect our nation, okay? And then we also have other climatic conditions as well. So all these factors have to be taken into account when preparing the budget estimates for a particular year.
Now, Mr. Kateshi, the estimates show in cognizance with Section 8, 4 of the Debt Management Act number 12 of 2022 be accompanied by the annual borrowing plan in simpler terms. What does this mean? As I let you go, because I know we also need to interact with members of parliament, but we'll still keep you here with us.
Yes. So, in short, you know, every budget has got the funding part and the expenditure part. But like even our own personal budgets, the expenditure side is always higher. So you are constrained by the limited resources. So government can raise resources through taxes and non-taxes, okay? And can also receive grants from some cooperating partners. But that still falls short. So the government has to borrow. Okay? So in order to ensure that there's more responsive borrowing and also for purposes of sound public debt management, the law now requires that the annual borrowing plan should be submitted to Parliament for approval. So it's just to ensure that there's sound public debt management in the nation.
Mr. Kateshi, thank you so much. I know you're still with us here as we continue talking about this very important day where the Minister of Finance is expected to unveil the 2024 national budget. So I'll keep you here. I will just wait for us so at least we keep on interacting. There you have it. As you can see, earlier on we did see the Minister of Finance making a way to the chamber, and anytime from now should be able to make pronouncements for the 2024 national budget. Now, Taza, I know we do have members of parliament that would want to interact with, just to find out their expectations in the 2024 national budget.
Exactly, Fawcett. Quite a number of MPs that want to give out their expectations. And shortly, I will be joined by Mafinga, Member of Parliament, that is Mr. Robert Shavinga. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Kindly share with us your expectations for the 2024 national budget that is yet to be presented by the Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you so much. First and foremost, I just want to state that our expectations are very high. And of course, you know, as a parliamentarian coming from a rural Zambia, and that is Mafinga, where I think the first thing we expect that the CDF has to be increased. Then also we expect that also parliamentary budget for the National Assembly budget, we expect that it has to be increased because so that we can do the oversight of the executive effectively. And also I think the agricultural sector, we expect it I think to do more high, and on health we need more money in terms of medicine that I think has crippled the country, and especially that we are coming out of the situation where the debt restructuring has been done. I think we expect also more in tourism sector because I think that is also we just saw some few days ago that we have acquired a new aircraft. So I think that will be flying our flag high. So expect more into tourism sector and also the issues of infrastructure, because I think as you may be aware that we have very bad infrastructure in terms of roads. So I think those are the most critical things that I expect to come.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
much. Those were just some of the expectations from Mafinga, Member of Parliament, Mr. Robert Shavinga, and I'm now joined by Katuba, Member of Parliament, Mr. Kulukusa. Good afternoon. Kindly share with us your expectations for the 2024 national budget.
Thank you very much. I think our expectations are high, Katua, more especially being a rural area. You know, we are depending so much on the Constituency Development Fund in terms of developing the rural constituencies, and we expect some sort of an increase in the Constituency Development Fund because that is where we believe development is starting from. We are also expecting to see an increase in the push for the agricultural sector I think currently the agricultural sector is poised to grow because it is one of the biggest sector that is going to provide a lot of jobs for the youths. As you know, much of it is not yet mechanized, so we expect that sector to grow. We expect also to see a lot of a push towards the electrification of rural constituencies, because as you know, most of the schools in rural constituencies are not electrified. We expect that as the ICT communication courses continue to grow in primary and secondary education, we expect to see that the focus will go into that. But much of it, we expect the stabilization of the economy. I think we saw that the economy was overheating, and we want to see that the fundamentals of the economy become much better. We start seeing growth trying to reach 6-7%, and we also expect that most of the fundamentals will be contained. These are inflation, interest rates, so that we can see the economy rebound, and so that when the economy starts growing, we have enough revenue to support the social sectors.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was Katuba, a member of parliament, who just shared his expectations for the 2024 national budget. I'm now joined by Mr. Taulo Chewe, who is Lubansenshi, member of parliament. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Please kindly share with us and the viewers out there what your expectations for the 2024 national budget are.
Thank you so much. The people of Lubansenshi, first and foremost, want to see how much will be allocated on agriculture, because this is a key sector which anchored on lives. Two, they are also expecting to see how much has been allocated into health, so that the people of Lubansenshi can able to have a good life, even the Zambian people at large. So the expectations are very high, and that's why as a member of parliament who has been chosen by them, I'm here to make sure that I hear myself, so that as well going back to the people of Lubansenshi constituency, I can every explain to them what the government has planned for 2024.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, viewers, for still watching Parliament Television. Indeed, high expectations they are coming from members of Parliament. And shortly, we do expect the Minister of Finance to unveil the 2024 national budget.
Yes, Taza, the minister is already here at Parliament buildings, and expectations are high, like we mentioned earlier on. And we've interacted with a few selected members of Parliament. More of that will have reactions from members of Parliament after the 2024 national budget is unveiled to Parliament and the nation. And we'll also keep on interacting with the principal clerk from the Parliamentary Budget Office here at the National Assembly. For now, we do have two colleagues, that's Claudette Jonga and Pauline Monga, in the chamber with us. So for now, we're crossing over to the two colleagues. Keep watching Parliament Television.
Well, thank you very much, Posent and Taz. Yes, today is a special day here at the National Assembly as we await the Minister of Finance and National Planning to deliver the budget speech in the House, and that is the national budget for the year 2024, which is going to be delivered this afternoon. And on live transmission, my name is Pauline Monga.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Claudette Sindaza Jonga, and we'll be together until after the 2024 national budget presentation has been done. Thank you so much to our colleagues Taza and Posent for giving us that update. The update actually as a curtain raiser for today's event. We must mention here that if you're just joining us, the Finance Minister of National Planning, Dr. Musokotwane, has actually arrived. He's already in the chamber and waiting for that big moment when he's going to present to us the 2024 national budget. A number of invited guests are already seated here in the public gallery. We do have members of the diplomatic corps already here, other invited guests, and other guests that are here, members of some civil society organizations. They're all here waiting in anticipation for the 2024 national budget.
Yes, Claudette, of course we don't forget the members of Parliament we can see right now who are mingling, and they are just waiting for the budget presentation to begin, which will be starting any time after 15 hours.
Expectations are high from every Zambian citizen out there. We did have a clip of some members of the public that we spoke to regarding the 2024 national budget expectations, and also here in the chamber we have expectations equally from members of parliament and other invited guests. All eyes on the Minister of Finance. Everybody's anxiously waiting to hear what the 2024 national budget actually contains. And like our colleagues mentioned a little bit earlier, last year's national budget was 167 billion, kwacha. So we're yet to see whether this time around it's going to increase, or decrease. So we urge you to stay right here on Parliament Television for that.
Yes, it is interesting also, Claudette, to note that in last year's budget, of course, the minister did talk about the global domestic development in 2022, which did affect a number of economies around the world, and these attributed to the breakout of COVID-19 as well as the Russia-Ukraine war. And he also did talk about the domestic economic development and also tackled the debt position, and this is the public external debt amounting to 14.87 billion US dollars as at June 2022. So those are just some of the excerpts of the budget for 2023, which was presented last year, September 2022.
We will continue looking at those excerpts from last year's budget presentation, but just to mention that Article 2021 of the Constitution of Zambia mandates the minister that's the minister responsible for finance to prepare the estimates of revenue and expenditure and to lay them before the National Assembly. And so that's what is going to be happening this afternoon. But before that happens, we'll have a look at business that was considered on the floor of the House yesterday, Thursday.
Yes, yesterday the Honorable Madam Speaker made two announcements, and one of the announcements, she made an announcement to recognize in the public galleries of pupils as well as teachers from Betha's School and Ziela Arts Gallery and the homestay in Lusaka District. And on behalf of the National Assembly, the Honorable Madam Speaker warmly welcomed the guests to the National Assembly.
In the other announcement, Madam Speaker did inform the House that in accordance with Article 2021 of the Constitution of Zambia, the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning would, on Friday, 29th September, which is today, present to the Assembly the estimates of revenue and expenditure for 2024, accompanied by an annual borrowing plan in consonance with Section 8.4 of the Public Debt Management Act.
Madam Speaker further stated that in accordance with Standing Order 157.4, the estimates of revenue and expenditure would be referred to the expanded Planning and Budgeting Committee, comprising honourable members of the Planning and Budgeting Committee and also chairpersons of all the general purposes and the portfolio committees, while the annual borrowing plan would be in accordance with Standing Orders 195.7 would be referred to the Planning and Budgeting Committee for examination. She further said that the committee would be required to submit its report on the annual borrowing plan to the House on Tuesday, 10th October 2023.
Madam Speaker further said, informed the House that the committee is being piloted for sector analysis of the budget to be implemented in 2024 include the Committee on Agriculture, Lands and Natural Resources, the Committee on Education, Science and Communication Technologies, Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism, Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs, and Committee on Health, Community Development and Social Services.
Madam Speaker further stated that the above committees would be required to submit their sector analysis reports to the expanded Planning and Budgeting Committee, which would incorporate the sector reports in its reports to the House. She further said that the Vice Chairperson of the above committees will preside over the proceedings of their respective committees and submit reports to the expanded Planning and Budgeting Committee.
And just to mention that in a short while from now, we should be seeing the Speaker's procession making its way into the chamber. We do expect a business to resume at 14:15 hours. So we continue looking at yesterday's business. Madam Speaker did recognize the presence in the public gallery of members of staff from the Parliament of Uganda. And on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, Madam Speaker warmly welcomed the distinguished guests.
And And there was one matter of urgent public importance that was raised by Mr. Anton Kaswangwe, who is a member of Parliament, and it was on the subject matter outbreak of mysterious disease affecting children in Bangweulu and the Milenge parliamentary constituency. And Madam Speaker ruled that this matter was inadmissible.
However, the Vice President yesterday did move a motion that standing orders 25, 26, 27 and 80 of the National Assembly of Zambia standing orders 2021 be suspended to enable the House to sit from 14-15 hours until business has been concluded on Friday 29th September 2023, and also to omit the Vice President's question time from the order paper.
And thereafter the House considered questions for oral answer number 55, 57, and understanding order 74. Thereafter there was resumption of debate on His Excellency the President's address that was moved by Mr. Fulo Kakoma, Mwandi, Member of Parliament, and of course that the thanks of the Assembly be recorded for public exposition of public policy contained in the President's address. And this motion was seconded by Kafulaputa Member of Parliament, Mr. Jeffrey Mulebwan. Yesterday, actually, the House concluded debating this motion, and debate, of course, was concluded, and thereafter the House adjourned accordingly at 18:25 hours.
And so that's it. That's the business that was considered on the floor of the House yesterday, Thursday, 28th September 2023. We now turn our attention to today's big event. All Zambians, all eyes are on today's national broadcaster here at Parliament Television as we wait for the Minister of Finance and National Planning to officially unveil the 2024 national budget.
Yes, Claudette, it's interesting actually. Usually Fridays the House would sit in the morning, but this is a special day in that the 2024 budget is going to be unveiled today, and so standing orders were suspended yesterday by Her Honor the Vice President to enable the House to conclude all business, and actually the House to be held this afternoon when the Minister of Finance and National Planning is going to present the 2024 budget.
So we do expect the Minister of Finance and National Planning today to move a motion that the House do now resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2024 to 31st December 2024, together with the annual borrowing plan presented to the National Assembly in September 2023. All this will be happening in a short while from now as we are waiting for the Speaker's procession to make its way into the chamber.
Yes, right now the members of Parliament actually await the arrival of the Speaker's procession just before the budget speech is delivered to the House. Earlier on we saw the Minister of Finance and National Planning walk in majestically with his family, walk into Parliament buildings, actually from the footsteps of Parliament buildings, walking in with the wife and the granddaughter.
Absolutely.
And the famous copper briefcase in his hand. And right now we go to the floor of the House, and the Speaker's procession makes its way into the House. So for now we say stay tuned and keep watching Parliament Television. Good afternoon.
Honorable members of Parliament, Madam Speaker.
And sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for our rights. We want freedom's fight. Let us, O her people, join as one, brothers under the sun. Oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry. Dignity and peace in Zambia's sky. Like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, O one, strong and free. Praise be to God, praise be, bless our great Zambia, Zambia, Zambia. Remain we stand under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee, O one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation, in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Order, order, honorable members. I have one announcement to make, and this is, honorable members, I wish to inform the House that the National Assembly of Zambia has established a parliamentary caucus on disability, inclusion and rights, PCDI and ARA, a voluntary group consisting of members of parliament who have made a commitment to champion disability inclusion across policies, laws, and mechanisms for state accountability. The caucus will be launched on Monday, 2nd October 2023, at Parliament buildings in the amphitheater starting at 09 hours. In this regard, all honorable members are encouraged to attend the event on voluntary basis. I thank you. Business statement. Her Honor, the Vice President.
Madam Speaker, I wish to inform the House that the House Business Committee met on Thursday, 28 September 2023, to determine and schedule business of the House for the period 3rd to 13th October 2023. Honorable members may wish to know that the House Business Committee resolved henceforth to be meeting fortnightly. Hence, today's business statement is for a period of 2 weeks. In this regard, the committee resolved to lay before the House the following business for consideration. A, announcements. The Honorable Speaker may make announcements to the House on any day when it is necessary to do so. B, rulings. The Honorable Speaker may render rulings if there will be any. C. Ministerial statements. Honorable ministers may make ministerial statements if there will be any. D. Private members' motions. Private members' motions will be considered if there will be any. E. Reports of parliamentary delegations. Reports of parliamentary delegations to international conferences will be considered if there will be any. Questions. Honorable ministers will respond to urgent questions if there will be any. 1 and 2, honorable ministers will respond to 51 questions for oral answer, understanding order 74 as set out hereunder. The details of the questions are contained in the notice of questions circulated to all honorable members. Madam Speaker, on behalf of the House Business Committee, and in accordance with Standing Order 189, Part 5 of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2021, I have the pleasure to present the business of the next 2 weeks to this august House. I thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Notes of motion. The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the House do now resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the period 1st January 2024 to 31st December 2024, presented to the National Assembly on Friday, 29th September 2023. This is pursuant to Article 202 of the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Act 2016. Madam, I'm a bearer of a message from His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, recommending favorable consideration of the motion that I now lay on the table.
Order. The question is that the House do now resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2024 to 31st December 2024, together with the annual borrowing plan presented to the National Assembly in September 2023. Any debate? The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam Speaker, this is the third budget that the new administration, the new Dawn administration, is presenting to this House. Since coming into office just 2 years ago, our administration has achieved excellent progress in changing
Order, order. Order, honorable members. Can we
Since-
listen to the budget address
Since I was
in
disturbed,
silence?
Since I was disturbed, I will repeat the sentence. Since coming into office just 2 years ago, our administration has achieved excellent progress in changing the social and economic landscape of our country. Madam, on the economic front, Zambia's external debt is now under control following the debt restructuring agreement reached earlier this year. The rate of increase in prices of consumer goods or inflation, which we found at 24%, has reduced to 12%. And notwithstanding period of instability, the exchange rate of the kwacha is relatively more stable now than before. Just to elaborate, Madam Speaker, we found the exchange rate at 23, today is 2 at 21. Of particular significance is the strategic equity partner. Of particular significance is that the strategic equity partner for Konkola Copper Mines has now been selected, while that for Mopani Copper Mines is just imminent. Once this process is concluded, the Copper Belt province and indeed the country at large will come to vibrant life. Madam Speaker, in the social sector, we've provided free education. We have recruited more public workers, scaled up social protection, enhanced constituency development funds, and developed some functions to local authorities. Madam, ordinarily, these should be achievements that an administration achieves over a full 5-year term. But, Madam Speaker, these achievements have just been attained in only 2 years. Madam Speaker, during the official opening of the third session of the National Assembly, of the 13th National Assembly, President Hichilema emphasized on the need to build on the socio-economic gains I've just outlined. His vision is to see a better Zambia, where the livelihoods of our people are improved. The 2024 budget and those that will follow do just that, to create conditions for stronger and sustained economic expansion and job creation. Madam, the focus of the 2024 budget is therefore to promote economic growth through enhanced private sector investment, increase production and productivity, and improve public service delivery. It is in this context that the theme for the 2024 budget reads, and I quote, "Unlocking economic potential," end of quote. Through this budget, therefore, the government makes a commitment to provide the policy framework, resources, and incentives to unlock the economic potential of our country. Madam Speaker, my address this afternoon is structured in 4 parts. Part 1 covers macroeconomic developments in 2023. Part 2 outlines macroeconomic objectives and policies for the 2024 fiscal year. Part 3 provides estimates of revenue and expenditure, along with borrowing requirements for 2024. In Part 4, I conclude the address. Part 1, macroeconomic overview for 2023. Madam Speaker, as a way of starting, let me briefly review the macroeconomic situation in 2023. At the global level, economic growth is expected to slow down to 3% in 2023 from 3.5% recorded in 2022. Sustained tightening of monetary policy in advanced economies, adverse effects of climate change, and the impact of the prolonged Russia-Ukraine war are largely responsible for the subdued economic growth. Madam, the consequence of the weak global economy is that during the first 9 months of 2023, commodity prices trended downwards. Copper prices declined to an average of $8,589 per metric ton from $9,084 during the same period in 2022. Crude oil prices also reduced to an average of $82.8 per barrel from $104. On the domestic economy, we project to grow by 2.7% in 2023 compared to 5.2% in 2022. The slowdown is mainly attributed to reduced production in the mining sector on account of operational challenges and flooding in some of the major mines. Madam, notwithstanding the slowdown in growth this year, prospects in the medium term are positive with the resolution of challenges in the mining sector. Growth is therefore expected to pick up in 2024 and over the medium term. Inflation has edged upwards to 12% in September 2023 from 9.9% in December 2022. This has largely been driven by increases in prices of maize grain and meat products, as well as the depreciation of the kwacha against the dollar. Madam, the kwacha depreciated by 10.9% against the US dollar to 20.5% between January and August this year. The depreciation of the kwacha was mainly on account of strong demand, while inflows, especially from the mining sector, reduced. Madam Speaker, in response to the recent rise in inflation, the Bank of Zambia has raised the policy rate by 100 basis points to 10%. In addition, to address volatility in the exchange rate, as well as safeguard the stability of the foreign exchange market, the statutory reserve ratio was increased by 250 basis points to 11.5% in February 2023. Let me now turn to the way the budget for 2023 is performing. Madam Speaker, the budget of this year has been favorable and broadly in line with the projection so far. Total expenditure for the year is projected at 157.5 billion kwacha, which is 5.8% below the target of 167.3 billion, which the House approved. Notable expenses include social cash transfer, dismantling of arrears, infrastructure development, and the Constituency Development Fund, CDF. Madam, with respect to revenues and grants, these are projected at 119 billion, 5% above the target of 113.3 billion. Revenue collections are projected to be above target, while borrowing at 31.1 billion will be lower than the target of 40.9 billion. So we are reducing borrowing. Madam Speaker, the fiscal deficit is projected at 5.8% of GDP, which will be below the target of 7.7%. The lower budget deficit is reflective of the government's commitment to fiscal discipline. Madam, I'm happy and proud to report that in the 2 years that this administration has been in office, fiscal discipline has been very high. As I just reported, revenues and expenditures are nearly spot on as authorized by this August House. Moreover, deviations, you recall, Honorable Madam Speaker, in the past there used to be serious deviations on expenditures, whereby, for example, you would be told in the yellow books there's CDF, but when it comes to releasing the money, there would be nothing. Madam, now those deviations hardly exist, while critical areas like education, health, CDF are fully funded. Madam Speaker, let me now talk about financial sector performance. Madam Speaker, growth in lending by the banking sector slowed down to 6.4% in the first 7 months of 2023, compared to a growth of 11.9% recorded in the corresponding period in 2022. The slowdown, Madam Speaker, was due to reduced government borrowing. Growth in the lending to the private sector remains steady at 15%. Madam, the overall financial performance and the conditions of the banking sector remains satisfactory. The capital position was adequate and earnings performance was strong. Asset quality was satisfactory and reflected in a lower non-performing loans ratio of 4.4% at the end of August 2023, below the 10% prudential benchmark. Madam Speaker, the performance of the non-banking financial institutions was also satisfactory. The capital position's earnings performance, liquidity management sensitivity to the market risk all remained satisfactory. Asset quality was rated fair, with a ratio of non-performing loans improving to 12.1% at end June 2023 from 13% 2022, but remained above the prudential limit of 10%. Madam, emerging financial technologies and digitization has brought immense benefits to the financial sector, such as ease of accessing financial services. For instance, in the first half of the year, the value of mobile payments grew by 38% to almost 200 billion kwacha, while the volume of transactions grew by 7.1% to almost 980 million kwacha. Madam Speaker, with the increased usage of digital financial services, there's an increasing threat of cyber attacks, which may compromise the stability of the sector. To mitigate this threat and preserve the integrity of the financial sector, the Bank of Zambia issued the Cyber and Information Risk Management Guidelines to the financial service and payment system providers in May this year. On the external sector, in the first half of 2023, the merchandise trade surplus narrowed to $200 million from $1.7 billion in the same period, 2022. This outturn was due to higher imports, while exports declined. Imports rose by 23% to $5.2 billion, driven by capital and consumer goods. In contrast, export earnings declined by 11.6% to 5.3%. This was largely due to copper export earnings, which were reduced. Madam, as at end August 2023, gross international reserves amounted to $2.9 billion, representing 3.2 months of import cover, which is above the threshold that we need. Madam Speaker, I move on to part 2, where I will discuss the macroeconomic objectives. Madam Speaker, to unlock Zambia's economic potential, we must address the constraints facing the economy, especially in mining, energy, manufacturing, and agriculture. These include low production and productivity, low diversification and industrialization, low private sector investment, and low access to affordable finance. Madam, the 8th National Development Plan sets out strategies to address these bottlenecks and take the country to higher growth position. In this regard, government will pursue the following macroeconomic objectives in 2024. A, attain a real GDP growth rate of at least 4.8%. B, reduce inflation to the target range of between 6 and 8%. C, maintain international reserves above the 3 months of import cover. D, increase domestic revenue to at least 22% of GDP. And E, reduce the fiscal deficit to 4.8% of GDP. And F, limit borrowing to no more than 2.5% of GDP. Policies for 2024. Madam Speaker, the development strategy for the country as outlined in the 8th National Development Plan is premised on the following key thematic areas. A, economic transformation and job creation. B, human and social development. C, environmental sustainability. And D, good governance. I will now present the specific policies in these four strategic development areas, starting with economic transformation and job creation. Madam Speaker, the new Dawn administration has made progress in stabilizing the economy over the last 2 years. This gives us a basis upon which we can achieve higher, sustainable, and more inclusive growth. Notwithstanding the gains made, we have a number of challenges, particularly low production and productivity in the major sectors of the economy. Let me now present the key interventions that will support economic transformation and job creation. And I start with the sector of agriculture, livestock, and fisheries. Madam Speaker, over the past years, crop and livestock production has generally been below potential, positive but below potential. This has been due to a number of factors, such as adverse effect of the climate change, high cost of inputs, unaffordable finance, and inadequate irrigation, and others. Madam, according to the 2022-2023 crop forecast survey, the country produced 3.2 million metric tons of maize. This means that the country produced enough food for itself. Notwithstanding this performance, several of our neighboring countries, Madam Speaker, had poor harvests. Demand for maize from the region has therefore led to higher maize prices and subsequently escalation in meal prices. Madam Speaker, traders from outside Zambia, where there is maize shortage, they started buying maize from Zambia even when it was still green in the fields. And they offered our farmers high prices. Higher maize prices for our farmers, Madam Speaker, is of course good for the farmers. For many years, our farmers have been crying out for better prices. I remember in 2021, one of the Paramount chiefs was very angry that farmers were being prevented to sell their maize in Malawi, where the prices were better. Madam Speaker, the farmers sold maize across the borders. Some of them abandoned the growing of maize and shifted to soybeans for better returns. The recently released data on poverty shows that the people engaged in farming are among those in the poorest category in Zambia. I repeat, the recently released data on poverty shows that people engaged in farming are among those where the incidence of poverty is higher. In other words, we have, as Zambians, impoverished our farmers. Improved prices for the maize, therefore, is one of the strategies of reducing poverty among the farmers. Madam Speaker, we say the maize is ours in Zambia, but ultimately the maize belongs to those farmers in Katete, in Rundazi, in Choma, who have grown the maize. Therefore, it is no longer tenable for us to tell the farmer, you are going to receive low price of maize so that me, the Minister of Finance, can have cheap mealie meal. That would be unfair to the farmers. And this government, therefore, under the circumstances, Madam Speaker, government had no option but to raise the buying price of maize or else face a situation where most of the maize grown in Zambia would be exported by traders in the neighboring countries, thereby causing even higher shortages. Better prices for maize induced by higher regional demand, therefore, present an opportunity for our farmers to expand production, increase household income, reduce poverty, and earn the country the much-needed foreign exchange. Madam Speaker, the government recognizes that some of our citizens have been hit hard by the rise in mealie meal prices. Therefore, the government has the responsibility to mitigate the escalation in the prices of mealie meal in other ways, not by paying or underpaying the farmer. So alternative strategies must be found to make sure that the farmer is paid a decent price, but those who are vulnerable and unable to afford the food, the government takes care of them. Madam, we are implementing measures to lower the cost of producing maize. Key among these, Madam Speaker, is the cost of fertilizer. Madam Speaker, 2 years ago, the cost of fertilizer per metric ton was on average $1,200 under PFS. Madam Speaker, the cost of fertilizer now under this government has come down to $865 per metric ton. Another measure government is implementing is to come to an understanding with millers for them to reduce the cost of mealie meal if they buy maize from the stocks held by the Food Reserve Agency. And this, Madam Speaker, is being implemented. For millers using the Food Reserve Agency, maize, there is no justification whatsoever for their meal prices to be as high as we sometimes see it. Finally, the Food Reserve Agency will be releasing stocks of maize for community purchases so that citizens can have a choice of milling their own maize using cheaper methods. Madam Speaker, in my address last year, I indicated that the Comprehensive Agriculture Transformation Support Program would be developed to improve production. I'm happy to report that the good progress has been made and the program will be launched before the end of this year. The program will include extension service support, access to finance, irrigation development, support to value addition, as well as storage and logistics. Madam, government is developing farm blocks, which are the areas where high technology agriculture will be deployed to produce large stocks for domestic consumption for processing into agro-export goods. It is from the farm blocks where technology-based farming can produce large stocks competitively and be able to export to the world at large. Madam Speaker, to increase accessibility within the farm blocks, government will in 2024 construct 300 kilometers of roads in Nansanga, Luena, Shkabeta, and other farm blocks. In the same vein, government will also embark on the construction of 10 bridges to enhance connectivity in the farm blocks. In addition, government will construct 200 kilometers of power lines in the farm blocks so that the farmers are able to irrigate. Further, more investment will be made in irrigation infrastructure to reduce dependence on the rain-fed agriculture and to ensure farmers are able to plant throughout the year. The ground plans for all these things that I'm talking about, Madam Speaker, those have already been laid down. Madam, to adapt to the adverse effects of climate change and build resilience, government will continue implementing smart agricultural technologies in collaboration with cooperating partners. These include conservation agriculture, water harvesting, irrigation agriculture insurance, as well as early warning systems. In the livestock subsector, government will unlock potential by improving animal health, animal identification and traceability, as well as farm breeding programs. The disease surveillance and response system will be enhanced as regional veterinary laboratories in Chipata, Choma, Isoka, Kasama, Mongu, Ndola, and Solwezi become operational. In addition, the Central Veterinary Research Institute will be rehabilitated because it had been dilapidated over many years. Madam, animal identification and traceability are critical to livestock trade, disease control, and prevention of stock theft. To enhance animal identification and traceability, government has developed a smart system. An online system which is being piloted in Central, Lusaka, Northwestern, Southern, and Western provinces. Madam Speaker, the system will enable the public to register, search, and identify animals. The platform will be linked to SMS messaging system for ease of access by animal owners. So far, 68,518 livestock farmers with 411,000 cattle have been captured. It is envisaged that our cattle population of approximately 5 million will be captured in this system by December 2024. I'm sure the cattle farmers out there are happy that the thieves who have been stealing their cattle will have their days have come to the end with this system that is being introduced. Madam Speaker, to strengthen the legal reforms on animal identification and traceability, government will bring to this House the Animal Identification and Traceability Bill this session of Parliament. Madam, government is implementing a community-based livestock breeding program through a pass-on scheme to support livestock farmers with high-quality breeding stock. So far, 225,000 livestock have been distributed to 36,000 households countrywide. In 2024, a total of 12,000 livestock farmers will benefit under this program. Madam Speaker, to increase the livestock carrying capacity and build climate resilience, government will continue to implement the forage and pasture production. At the end of June this year, more than 19,000 hectares of degraded rangeland was oversown out of the target of 30,000 hectares, bringing the total oversown rangeland to 99,000 hectares. This has improved livestock nutrition and assured all year-round food availability for the animals. Madam, to enhance production and productivity in the fisheries subsector, government is promoting the establishment of fish hatcheries. In 2024, government will establish 3 hatcheries in 3 aquaculture parks in Kasempa, Mushindamo, and Samfya districts, in addition to the 18 hatcheries already established. This will increase fingerling productions to 433 million in 2024 from the current 302 million. Madam Speaker, government will promote sustainable capture fisheries through enforcement of fishing ban and enhance surveillance of our water bodies. The interventions under aqua and capture fisheries are aimed at reducing the national fish deficit to 52,000 metric tons in 2024 from 74,000 in 2023. Madam, to unlock the potential of the agriculture sector and seize export opportunities while ensuring domestic food security, government is working in collaboration with the cooperating partners to establish an agriculture credit window. This will support small-scale farmers, emergent farmers, and public service workers. Tourism. Madam Speaker, last year, government announced a unilateral waiver of tourist visa requirements for citizens from selected countries, which has resulted in a boost of tourist arrivals. In the first half of 2023, international tourist arrivals increased by 22% to 605%. Madam Speaker, I want to repeat this. In the first half of 2023, international tourist arrivals increased by 22%, from 496,000 in 2022 to more than 600,000 this year. Madam, the sector has recovered as evidenced by increased room occupancy rates. In the first half of 2023, the room occupancy rate averaged 70% compared to 40% in the same period last year. Similarly, the length of stay by tourists increased to an average of 4 days in 2023 from 3 days in 2022. Madam Speaker, visits to national parks, waterfalls, and heritage sites increased by 34% to 213,000 in the first half of the year, compared to only 159,000 last year. This increase was partly attributed to a rise in domestic tourism. The other factors that have helped to boost tourist arrivals are the hosting of local and international meetings and enhanced tourism marketing, because Tourism Ministry last year was funded to increase marketing. Madam, to accurately determine trade in tourism services, government will establish a tourism satellite account to measure the contribution of tourism in the sector. This will help with policy formulation and inform decision making. Madam Speaker, last year, I promised to secure resources from cooperating partners to develop tourism facilities infrastructure at Cassava Bay, Liwa National Park, and the source of the Zambezi River, and others, including Kafue National Park. I'm happy to report that we have now secured the $100 million under the Green, Resilient, and Transformational Tourism Development Project. These resources will help to improve accessibility and diversify of tourism product offerings to attract more tourists and increase length of stay. Other developments will include the improvement of air and road connectivity to southwest tourism tourism circuit of Liwa, Siomangwezi, Livingstone, Lower Zambezi, and Kafue National Park. Madam, to support diversification of tourism products, government will undertake reforms to enhance wildlife conservation and management. Government will also promote sustainable tourism development to include tourism products such as cultural tourism, agritourism, health tourism, sports tourism, and others. In addition, government will continue to support the hosting of meetings, conferences, and incentive tourism. I move on to mining. Madam Speaker, in the first half of 2023, production of copper, emeralds, manganese declined mainly due to operational challenges. This was compounded by flooding and low-grade ores at some major mines. Low-grade ores in some mines, because in the last 10 years, the environment was unfriendly, and mining companies, instead of Madam Speaker, because the mining environment was unfriendly, mining companies were either closing or they were not reinvesting. Madam, with the envisaged resolution of challenges at Pompani and KCM, as well as the possible coming on board of new mines, the mining sector is expected to boost production in 2024. This will support our goal of achieving the 3 million ton target by 2022. Madam, the attractive tax policy regime is already yielding benefits. This is evidenced by the increase in committed investment in the sector to 3.4 billion in 2023 from 1.7 billion in 2022. Madam, who doesn't know that First Quantum has since commenced commercial production of nickel in Kanumila, with approximately 35,000 metric tons of nickel expected to be produced per annum. This mine is poised to be the largest producer of nickel in Africa and will strategically position the country in the global transition to clean energy. This has only been possible with the good policy environment that this administration has created. Madam, let me address the concerns raised by across that despite the favorable tax regime given to the mining sector, copper production is reduced. The reduction is not related to taxation, but rather to operational challenges. Madam Speaker, it must be appreciated that investment in the mining sector takes time to yield results. This is because, firstly, the mining companies must evaluate the investment climate. When they see it is good like now, and like in the past, then they begin to hunt for the minerals. And once they hunt for minerals, they will surely find them. And after that, investments in mines are made. So it takes a bit of time. As of now, Madam Speaker, the change in the tax policy that was made is without any doubt working. Madam Speaker, you just have to go in the Northwestern and Copperbelt province to appreciate the amount of exploration that is taking place right now. And Madam Speaker, already we have received information to the extent that not too far from now, spectacular announcements will be made about some of the biggest mines on the continent here in Zambia. So, Madam Speaker, the policy environment that this government has created, without any doubt, it is working. Madam, to attract targeted investment and accelerate mineral exploration projects around the country, government will undertake a high-resolution countrywide geophysical survey in 2024. Government will carry out aerial surveys on the Copperbelt, in Lusaka, Northwestern, Southern, and Western provinces, as well as other parts of the country. Accurate geological information is fundamental to the achievement of the 3 million metric tons. Madam Speaker, government has declared all minerals as strategic for the country's economic prosperity. In this regard, government will enhance the exploration, exploitation, and the trade of these mineral resources. So far, preliminary geological surveys for lithium in Papatia and sugilite in Chembe have been conducted. Madam, to enhance regulatory oversight in the mining sector, government will bring a bill in this session to operationalize the Mineral Regulation Commission. The Commission will address, among others, issues pertaining to production reporting, mineral content analysis, illegal mining, and illicit trade of minerals. And now to manufacturing, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the manufacturing sector has continued to record steady progress, evidenced by the 4.7% growth rate in 2022. Indeed, Madam Speaker, manufacturing is a sector where we have seen excellent development. Here are a few examples. Firstly, Madam Speaker, a few years ago, Zambia was fully dependent on imported fertilizer. Because of the good environment of this government, new investments have been made. And now, the country is not just self-sufficient in fertilizers, but has become a net exporter of fertilizers. Madam, secondly, again, because of the good environment for investment, Zambia, which used to be totally dependent on imported ceramic products, today, Madam Speaker, Zambia is a net exporter of these products. Madam Speaker, here is some more good news. The Zambia Development Agency has this year received firm, and when I say firm, I mean firm. They've received firm indications for new investments amounting to more than $5 billion. The areas of interest for these firm indications include the following: electric vehicle batteries. We have firm interest for those. Madam Speaker, would you believe that there's going to be an investment here in Zambia for people to produce those wind turbines in Zambia? That is coming in Zambia, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, would you believe that as we speak right now, there's firm interest for electrical motorcycles to be assembled in Zambia? This makes investment prospects. So when I say, Madam Speaker, that these indications of investment are firm, this is real. Madam Speaker, as this happens, thousands of jobs will be created. But not just that, Madam Speaker. Following the recent visit by the President to China, more interest has been generated. Areas of interest again include assembly of mobile phones, assembly of more motorcycles, manufacture of pharmaceuticals, and serious manufacture of copper cables. Further, Madam Speaker, even as the President arrived here, 1 week after the President arrived from China, the delegation of these investments from China were arriving here every day. Madam Speaker, it is very clear that when our President makes international visits, when he comes back home, there are tangible goodies that he brings with him. Madam Speaker, indeed, these are the presidents. These are the real presidents. Madam Speaker, notable progress has been made in the establishment of the multi-facility economic zones. or simply called MFEs. For example, Madam Speaker, for example, in the Lusaka South MFEs has a total of 52 investors right now. Right now in the Lusaka South MFEs, there's a total of 52 investors with a total investment commitment of $864 million. Of these, 22 companies are already currently operating with a total investment of $540 million with 12,500 jobs, while 30 companies are in the construction phase with a total investment so far of $323 million and are expected to generate a further 7,300 jobs. Madam Speaker, I'm happy that our local entrepreneurs are responding to the incentives that we are providing to the M phases. Out of the 30 companies in the construction phase, 23 are local companies. Similarly, out of 22 companies in the operational phase, 7 are local. Madam Speaker, we must continue to draw upon and learn from the experience of countries that have successfully employed special economic zones to attract more investment. I repeat, Madam Speaker, we must continue to draw upon and learn from the experiences of countries that have successfully employed special economic zones to attract investment. As we all know, most of these countries were poorer than Zambia at independence. Today, they are far ahead, and one of the tools that propelled them to where they are the special economic zones like our M phases. Madam, whereas the current tax incentives in the M phases are acceptable, the zones still suffer from other inadequacies which reduce their attractiveness. To address the weaknesses, the following measures will be introduced by the end of the first quarter of 2024. Firstly, Madam Speaker, the land rates levied by local councils will be harmonized and reduced. There's been the mistaken belief that councils can earn a lot of money by overcharging on rates. In reality, they'll fail to earn that money because investors simply move somewhere else. Secondly, Madam Speaker, the Employment Code Act of 2019, unfortunately, is a job killer because it imposes onerous financial obligations and conditions on employers. These provisions will be reviewed generally, but especially so inside the M phase, where we must aim to drastically reduce the burdens and bring the emphasis to the international best practices. Further, a pay policy to workers based on agreed principles of more pay for higher productivity will be allowed. Thirdly, immigration and work permits requirements have been onerous. It takes too long to have these permits issued, and because of that, corruption has been perpetrated. In the emphasis, therefore, there will be changes. The proposal is that in the M phase, an enterprise will automatically be granted a quota for expatriate employees at whatever level, whose ratio will be determined on the basis of the number of jobs created. The higher the number of jobs a company creates, the higher the number of expatriates allowed, and vice versa. Of course, security clearance on the proposed individual expatriates will continue to apply. Madam Speaker, For years, we have held on to the mistaken belief that the more strict you are in blocking expatriates, the more jobs you create for the local people. But the experience from all over the world in actual practice points to the very opposite result. Madam, by easing conditions in the MFAs to the best practices in the world, our country will in effect conduct a live experiment inside the secluded areas without exposing the whole country to such conditions. If, as we hope, the liberal conditions in the MFAs prove more effective in attracting investment and job creation, then we shall, in later phases, apply the liberal conditions to the rest of the country. Madam Speaker, it is government's desire that more MFAs be established. Since government does not have the money to finance the MFAs, we shall achieve the same by merely providing fiscal incentives so that the private sector themselves can develop the emphasis. Small and medium enterprise development. Madam Speaker, access to affordable finance continues to be a constraint to SME growth. To address this, government is providing funds to targeted groups through a number of empowerment programs such as Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission, Women Empowerment, CDF, and the Youth Empowerment Program. For instance, as at the end of August 2023, the Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission dispersed 660 million kwacha over 77,000 beneficiaries, who included marketeers, persons living with disabilities, and cooperatives, women and youth. Madam, to further facilitate access to affordable loans by SMEs, government has increased the allocation to the Zambia Credit Guarantee Scheme. The Bank of Zambia, leveraging on private sector participation, will complement the existing scheme by rolling out another credit guarantee scheme in 2024. Madam Speaker, to accelerate micro, small, and medium enterprises, government has been constructing industrial yards. To this end, 4 were commissioned in Chipata, Kasama, Mansa, and Mongo early this year. An additional 3 are earmarked for commissioning in Kitwe, Lusaka, and Dola before the end of the year. In 2024, government will construct industrial yards in Chisali, Choma, and Kabwe. The setting up of industrial yards will also create employment opportunities for the women and youth. On the energy sector, Madam Speaker, this is a critical enabler of economic development as it cuts across various socio-economic activities. In this regard, government will continue to implement reforms that promote efficiency and growth in the sector. Madam, to mitigate the high cost of transporting petroleum products, government converted Tazama pipeline from a petroleum feedstock to a low sulfur diesel carrier. As a result, the pump price of diesel reduced to below that of petrol in 2023. Had we not done the conversion of the pipeline, diesel pump prices today would be higher by 19%. I am aware that the fuel prices are high today, but this is to do with the fact that where this commodity is bought on the international markets, the price has increased, and certainly, yes, if we had not made this transformation, the fuel cost would have even been higher. Madam Speaker, government has now developed regulations to enable all players on the sector to have access to the Tazama pipeline. This will enhance competition among the suppliers, which will ultimately benefit consumers. I now call upon the private sector to come forward and take advantage of the open access and participate in the supply of petroleum products. Further, Madam Speaker, I want to urge the private sector to invest in a new pipeline to increase the volume of fuel that can be imported through the pipelines, because the current pipeline is not adequate. The private sector, through PPP or any other mechanism, please come forward. We'll support you to invest into a pipeline. Yeah. Madam, if we do that, the cost of fuel in this country will come down further. Madam Speaker, I hear of some citizens calling for the reintroduction of subsidies on fuel. If this is adopted, this of course means that we must cut expenditure elsewhere in our budget. In practical terms, it may mean that we may have to abandon the policy of free education. As you recall, Madam Speaker, the previous government, their preference was to subsidize fuel. The fact that there were millions of children failing to go to school because of school fees, that did not matter to them. So, Madam Speaker, in the light of what I've just said, that the focus should be on the most vulnerable, provide free education to children, make sure that instead of the time when we used to have 1 or 2 teachers in the school, now we have more teachers. This is only possible because we said the subsidies on fuel must now go and subsidize the most vulnerable. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I don't believe that going back to the subsidies for fuel is something that is good for the most vulnerable in our country. Madam Speaker, to enhance growth of the electricity subsector, government is implementing measures to increase electricity generation capacity, which currently stands at 3,790 megawatts. This will be done through the provision of incentives to attract investment in power generation, which I will announce later in my address today. Government is also promoting the use of alternative renewable energy sources to make the energy sector more resilient. Madam, to increase access to clean, reliable, and affordable energy in rural areas, government will continue to support the Rural Electrification Program. Government, through the Rural Electrification Authority, REA, embarked on 62 grid-tied electrification projects and 19 solar mini-grid projects in 2023. Works on these projects have since commenced, and once completed, access to electricity in the rural areas will be improved. Madam Speaker, the transport sector is vital for unlocking the economic potential and the smooth running of our economy. The development, maintenance, and the rehabilitation of our transport networks therefore remain key in our economic transformation and job creation agenda. Madam, the aviation sector in Zambia has seen remarkable recovery following the ravaging effects of COVID-19. As at end August 2023, Madam Speaker, as at end August 2023, about 1.3 million passengers we recorded a recovery of 106% from the pre-COVID era. Growth in the sector has been spurred by clear government policies which include the lifting of visa requirements in the key tourist markets, as well as opening of new routes such as Lusaka to Maputo and Lusaka, Cape Town. On the domestic front, traffic has recovered and exceeded the pre-COVID-19 level by 33%. Madam Speaker, our country is vast and therefore requires huge sums of money to build and maintain roads. Unfortunately, we don't have the money for all the roads at once, more so given the huge debt left behind by our predecessors. This means that our room for borrowing is highly limited. Nevertheless, Madam Speaker, the new Dawn administration has used its ingenuity to utilize the public-private partnership mode of financing. In this regard, Madam Speaker, I'm happy to report that the upgrading of the Lusaka-Ndola road to a dual carriageway has commenced. The project will include the rehabilitation of Masangano, Fisenge, Luansha roads. Madam, to further demonstrate the commitment of the new Dawn administration to the PPP mode of financing, I'm glad to report to this August House that the rehabilitation of the Chingola-Kasumbalesa road already started this year. As we speak right now, Madam Speaker, the works have since reached 70% and will be completed before the end of this year. Madam Speaker, everyone who has been on this road, they are saying, wow. Not just that, Madam Speaker, the other interesting thing, the cost of this road is only half of what used to be paid in the past. Madam Speaker, under the PPP mode, the concession agreement for the Lumwana to Kambimba road Madam Speaker, under the PPP mode, the concession agreement for the Lumwana-Kambimba road has been signed. For those who are not familiar with this road, this is the road that is going to link Kolwezi in Congo, the DRC. So it links Kolwezi in DRC to Mwenilonga to Lumwana. Further, Madam Speaker, the concession agreement for the Katete to Chanida road, linking us with Mozambique, will be signed just within a few weeks from now. In addition, Madam Speaker, last year you saw how bad the Ndola to Mufulira road is. In fact, it's almost like a canal. As we speak, the negotiations for the Ndola to Sakania, from Sakania to Mufulira to Mokambo, that concession will also be signed in the next few weeks. This means, Madam Speaker, that our colleagues, our citizens from Folira, who used to be forced to go all the way to Kitwe will now have direct access with Ndola. Madam Speaker, even as I speak here, I can see my people in Florida smiling. Madam Speaker, to complement the roads linking Congo DRC, government will also construct and upgrade border infrastructure at the following positions. There will be border infrastructure at Sakania, there will be border infrastructure at Mokambo, there will be border infrastructure at Kipushi, or of course on tarred roads. With all these PPP interventions, Madam Speaker, Zambia will have more connecting points with the DRC, and therefore the congestion that we used to suffer now, overcrowding at Kasumbalesa, that will be a thing of the past. Madam Speaker, not every road can be financed through PPP because investors prefer roads where there is heavy traffic to enable them to recoup their investments. This notwithstanding, PPP remains very useful for us as the limited resources of the country can be deployed to the roads which are of no commercial interest to the private sector. Madam, government will continue with the construction and the rehabilitation of rural roads through the improved rural connectivity project. The project targets to construct, maintain, and rehabilitate 4,300 kilometers of feeder roads across the country. So far, 1,700 kilometers of feeder roads have been rehabilitated and the routine maintenance is being undertaken. Madam Speaker, a total of 500 kilometers of feeder roads will be rehabilitated in 2024 under the improved rural connectivity project. Madam Speaker, a further 700 kilometers of feeder roads will be constructed by the Zambia National Service and the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development in 2024. Madam Speaker, through the CDF, Constituency Development Fund, I'm happy to note that a number of constituencies have acquired road construction equipment. With this equipment, we expect an additional 1,000 kilometers of feeder roads to be rehabilitated in 2024. Madam, CDF is a game changer in many respects, including the roads. Madam Speaker, taking account of all the works being undertaken in different programs, the total stretch of feeder roads under construction will be an unprecedented 2,200 kilometers in 1 year. Going forward, and with the procurement of equipment by most of the constituencies, impassable roads, especially in rural areas, should be a thing of the past. Madam, apart from feeder roads, government will also rehabilitate and upgrade trunk and district roads. These include Chipata Lundazi, Mansa Nchelenge, Monze Niko, Bika Chinsali, Tate Yoyo Katunda roads. Madam Speaker, okay, I'll repeat. Madam, apart from the feeder roads, where we do more than 2,000 kilometers, government will also rehabilitate and upgrade trunk and district roads. These will include, although not limited, there are others, but these will include Chipata Lundazi, Mansa Chilenge, Monze Niko, Pika Chinsali, Tate Jojo Katunda Road. Madam Speaker, the new Dawn administration is indeed a working government. Madam, to reduce clearance time at our borders, government will implement electronic data exchange for customs and make pre-clearance of goods mandatory, as well as introduce a single payment point to collect statutory fees on behalf of other border agencies. This is in response of the crowding at the border areas. In line with our desire to reduce clearance time, operating hours at Katamamulilo border post was extended 24 hours in August this year. Madam Speaker, in the air transport subsector, the construction and upgrading of airport infrastructure remains a priority for government. This year, upgrading and the rehabilitation of Kasama Airport has already been completed. The MP for Kasama is silent. Madam Speaker, in 2024, government will commence the construction of airports at Kasaba Bay, Chinsali, and Choma. Information and communication technology. Madam Speaker, to digitize the economy, government remains committed to providing universal access to internet and mobile connectivity. In this regard, Madam Speaker, government is this year, 2023, constructing 139 communication towers to increase the network coverage to 92% from 78% in 2020. In 2024, Madam Speaker, in 2024, an additional 169 towers. In 2024, an additional 169 towers will be constructed. Madam, in collaboration with the private sector, government will leverage on the use of mix of technologies such as satellite and fiber connectivity to reach the unserved and underserved. Digital transformation centers will also be established in rural areas. Madam Speaker, to improve the business environment, to promote seamless access to public services and enhance public service delivery, government has been migrating public services to an online platform called Zamportal, which can be accessed on www.zamportal.gov.zm. What is this? This is part of the government service bus and payment gateway. Some of the services that can be accessed through this platform, Madam Speaker, include the fact that when you are paying for your motor vehicle license, commonly known as Msonko, you don't need to go anywhere. You can do it from your phone, in your village, in your office, anywhere. Another example, Madam Speaker, company registration. You don't need to go there. You sit in your office, sit in your house, you can do it. Madam Speaker, even for paying land rates at the Ministry of Lands, you don't need to go there. You can do it in the comfort of your offices. So, Madam Speaker, I urge the citizens to see what kind of services are available in this portal so that you can enjoy your convenience of accessing these services without going anywhere. Madam, government has identified at least 1,500 services, which you can access online without going to an office. So far, 208 services are being offered as we speak right now. Government in 2024 increased the number of services on Zampoto to 382 towards that target of 1,500. Madam Speaker, the use of the ZAM portal has reduced transaction costs and queues in accessing public services, as well as minimize revenue leakages. In addition, the portal has assisted to cut down on the bureaucracy, improve transparency and accountability, thereby reducing opportunities for corruption. Madam, the migration of public services, which began in 2020, has so far recorded over 1.6 million transactions, valued at approximately 2 billion. Nonetheless, the uptake remains low, and this is the reason why some citizens complain. They are not aware that, in fact, they can access these services very conveniently. Madam Speaker, to increase access to online government services, especially in rural areas, government will encourage local entrepreneurs and institutions such as schools to provide access to online public services, at a fee, of course. This will create income generating and employment opportunities for local communities. Madam, to increase access to digital services, investment will continue in connectivity up to the last mile. To achieve this, government will leverage on the extensive national coverage of fiber optic networks to reach the unserved and underserved. Science, technology, and innovation. Madam Speaker, to strengthen scientific and industrial research and enhance technology transfer and adoption, government will create an enabling environment to promote collaboration amongst academic institutions, innovation hubs, and research institutions to produce commercially viable products relevant to our economic transformation agenda. The measures will include the construction and rehabilitation of infrastructure, provision of equipment, and the recruitment of more researchers at the National Institute of Scientific and Industrial Research. In addition, 5 innovation hubs will be constructed, as well as construction of centers of excellence at the University of Zambia and Copperbelt University. Madam, government will also operationalize the National Ground Receiving Station in Chivombo District. The station will be able to download centralized raw remote sensing Earth observation satellite data that will be used by different stakeholders. This will reduce the current expenditure incurred by different stakeholders in procuring duplicate spatial data from other countries. This technology will enable the use of artificial intelligence and will be useful in the application of precision agriculture, mineral exploration, and natural resource management. Madam Speaker, my colleagues seem to be tired, so. No, I'm saying my listeners seem to be tired.
Honorable members, with the indulgence of the House, I wish to suspend business for 15 minutes for a health break. When business resumes, the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning will proceed with the rest of the budget speech. In the meantime, In the meantime, all invited guests are requested to remain in their seats. I thank you.
For joining us here on Parliament Television. The House has taken a 15-minute break. The Minister of Finance and National Planning there presenting the 2024 national budget under the theme Unlocking Economic Potential. Pauline?
Yes, Claudette, the business of the House will continue after the 15 minutes health break. And right now we continue listening to the speech by the Minister, but in the meantime we'll take a short break. And when we come back, we will continue with the Speaker. All guests, as Madam Speaker has announced, will remain seated in their seats as the members take a short break. And this is to allow for the Minister also to take a short break before he continues with the speech.
Absolutely. And so the Minister did talk about key interventions that will support economic transformation and job creation. And these include agriculture, livestock and fisheries, tourism, mining, manufacturing, small and medium enterprises, energy, transport and logistics. Just now, we take a break and we'll be right back.
Chambe nifuna kuti budget bafange maningi kuma industry, because vana vambiri vakazi vonse vangene ntchito. For example, if vasegura mulungushi textile, if kanjanjika kumatero vakausha, which means vantu vazangenako ntchito mwamene vanasegurira ku city market, people are getting job mwamene vanasegura indeni na mopond mine. So we need the government to go further because population ya Zambia ikura daily.
My expectation is that we lower the cost of living, at least the commodities of essentials intake, that has to be brought down, especially millennial.
The expectation about this budget, new budget that is coming in, we expect that maybe the cost of living will be definitely changing, and also when we look at fuel has really gone up for people who are traveling, and mostly just basically when we talk about the budget itself, we are talking about taxes as well. Taxes are high, especially for people who work. Taxes are very, very high. So I don't know whether this will really be tackled. We don't know, but we are looking forward and excited to see what is new.
In my case, what I would expect for the budget, if they can look into small, medium and entrepreneur businesses, because these businesses are going to inject capital in the economy. These are also going to help in reducing this problem of no jobs. A lot of people are languishing in the streets because of no jobs. When they promote these local entrepreneurs, a lot of jobs will be created, and there will be that cash flow in the economy.
Nipempa boma kuti pa chite amene ibwera ipa budget vangatione kuna ise makomboni mwamene tinkhala tivutika mvula ngati yamba kuloka vana poenda kusukulu sivapita ni kuchita kupapa wai sivatikonzera misewu vatiyanga nepo na ise.
As Center for Trade Policy and Development, we have a number of expectations. Of course, the economy has tried to balance in terms of its performance. We have seen in the first half of the year, however, some challenges in terms of resource mobilization, in terms of productivity in key sectors like the mining sector. We have also seen challenges in the agricultural sector. So as the 2024 national budget is to be presented this Friday, CTPD expects some tangible measures which should be put in place to respond to the economic challenges that have been partly faced in the mining sector. So strategies, for instance, to deal with artisanal small-scale mining, which has faced production challenges largely because of the capacity gap that is within the sector. We also expect that there has to be measures which are being put in place to address the gaps in the agricultural sector. We need to ensure that there is adequate funding to the sector.
We expect a budget that is going to actually speak to boosting the agriculture sector. So we expect more allocation on economic affairs this time around, because you cannot grow the economy without boosting the economic affairs in terms of stimulating growth. So we expect tax incentives, especially for the manufacturing sector. They have long been subjected, to high cost of doing business. I think especially during this period where we have other external factors such as the international oil market prices. So we expect that there will be some leverage in terms of taxes that will be imposed on the manufacturing sector. Because when we grow the manufacturing sector, we are actually also stimulating output in the agriculture sector, which feeds into the manufacturing sector. So we expect that as the government is also trying to boost agriculture output, there will be some tax incentives, especially for importation of agriculture equipment, so that we can go the mechanized way of production.
The first one for us is around social sector spending. I think this is an area that we are really keen to see, especially the level of investment in terms of health, education, agriculture. Those are the key sectors that we're paying attention to. We do note from the last budget there was an increase in investment into the education sector, but I think with a number of things, the introduction of the free education, we would like to see that translate into quality education. So I think there are still some gaps in that area. The health sector is another area that still remains quite challenged. There are constant cries of access to quality medical health care in terms of drugs, in terms of equipment, in terms of the actual infrastructure. So we are hoping to see just a budget that speaks more to social sector spending. We want to see a budget that is more robust around domestic resource mobilization, and here paying particular attention to the tax incentives. We would like to see a budget that is pro-domestic resource mobilization and addressing also with keen attention to the incentives that will go especially to the extractive sector. We acknowledge government's pronouncement in terms of growing the extractive sector, and so especially the mining sector within the extractive sector. So we are keen to see a budget that promotes domestic resource mobilization through taxation, and also review of the tax incentives to leave room for more income going into the economy.
I'm from the Parliament of India.
Je représente le Parlement français.
I am from Ireland.
From Zimbabwe.
Diputada de México.
Du Canada.
Du Parlement gabonais. I am a member of the New Zealand Parliament.
Iran.
In the Schweiz.
In Egypt.
Je suis député du Parlement mauricien.
Of the Republic of Fiji Islands.
De l'Assemblée nationale du Sénégal.
From the Kingdom of Tonga.
Parlementaire du Tchad.
Representing Finnish Parliament.
The Kingdom of Eswatini.
I am a member of Parliament of Ukraine.
Botswana. Bangladesh.
The Parliament of Uganda.
Suriname. Je représente Madagascar.
Zambia.
Al Parlamento di Uruguay.
South Sudan.
Centrafrique.
Sono la vicepresidente della Commissione Esteri della Camera dei Deputati italiana.
We are amongst the most vulnerable when it comes to climate change.
L'impact, il est plutôt à travers le dérèglement climatique.
Serious cyclone issues.
Acidification of the ocean, sea level rising.
ما این سالهای اخیر با یک موضوعی مواجه بودیم به نام گرد و غبار و ریزگرد.
La mer monte chaque année de 2 à 5 cm.
We also have huge issues around car dependency.
Ukraine's industry still produced many greenhouse gas emissions.
Con tormentas, lluvias, inundaciones o sequías.
Frost oder auch zu viel Regen, Überschwemmungen.
Le réchauffement est 2 fois plus important que les autres pays de la planète.
We are expecting heat waves, sandstorms.
Le flash flood, comme on dit dans le jargon. Our farming season has changed.
The winters have become warmer.
La stagione sciistica in alcuni luoghi non esiste più.
5 months without rain in a poor country like South Sudan that is still emerging out of war.
Ça détruit les champs, les plantes. The internal migration is happening rapidly.
Over thousands and thousands of people from Turkana in Kenya and also the Pokot from the Kenyan side are now in Uganda looking for livelihoods and also pasture and water for the animals. The climate change is for real.
Les parlementaires ont pu légiférer sur la question à travers des lois sur l'environnement.
It's up to have 51% carbon reduction by 2030.
Éduquer les gens premièrement à protéger l'environnement.
Instead of using personal vehicles, we all now just get in single buses and go to where we're going.
By using the e-office suite, we have turned everything into virtual. And by doing that, we have turned paperless. And that's one aspect.
México se comprometió en el Acuerdo de París a tener el 36% de las energías limpias para 2026.
At the global level, Fiji was a past president of COP23.
Nous avons une politique pour combattre l'érosion de nos plages.
Devenir complètement carboneutre d'ici 2050.
We also work with NGOs.
Et puis un ensemble d'éléments qui visent à la fois la partie de la gestion durable de l'eau, l'alimentation saine et durable.
We're looking at planting 1 million trees by 2023, which is this year.
Les plastiques sont interdits maintenant au Sénégal. We have been able to put half the amount of oil heated houses.
You have protected areas and national parks.
When you do a major project, it has to be environmental friendly.
Parliaments play a key role, as parliaments is where the discussion starts.
Solo con una grande pianificazione, una grande volontà si possono evitare gli effetti peggiori del cambiamento climatico e adattarci strada facendo.
We hope that other parliamentarians around the world will take the same approach.
My parliament,
my planet,
our future.
Mon parlement,
ma planète,
notre engagement.
Notre combat.
Mi parlamento, mi planeta,
nuestros hijos.
My parliament, my planet, our planet,
our family.
My parliament,
my planet,
our beautiful blue ocean Pacific.
My parliament,
my planet,
notre musée.
My parliament,
ma planète,
our dreams.
Notre engagement,
our life.
Il mio Parlamento,
minun planeettani,
notre devoir,
our environment,
our people,
our diversity.
Mon parlement,
my planet.
My parliament, my planet,
notre devenir.
The Criminal Procedure Code Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 24 of 2022.
On the Vice President's question time.
Questions for oral answer understanding order number 76.
For a matter to be admitted, it has to be of recent occurrence.
Continue watching Parliament TV, a channel dedicated to bring Parliament closer to you.
You can now advertise on Parliament Television and Parliament Radio. For more information, call Mr. Julius Musumali on 0977 854102 or Mr. George Perry on 0977 536487. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you.
Thank you very much for still being with us on Parliament Television, and Honorable Stumbeko Msokotwane, Minister of Finance and National Planning, is currently delivering the budget speech for 2024. We go back to the floor of the House. And he's also talked about reducing inflation to between 6 to 8% in the medium-term target band. And he also talked about them maintaining international reserves above 3.0 months of import cover. And he's also mentioned that government wishes to increase domestic revenue to about 22.0% of GDP, as well as reduce the fiscal deficit of 4.8% of GDP. So that was under the microeconomic objectives of government for 2024.
And under Information and Communication, the Minister of Finance did say that to digitize the economy, government remains committed to providing universal access to internet and mobile connectivity. And so in this regard, government is this year constructing 139 communication towers to increase the network coverage to 92% from 78% in 2020. In 2024, an additional 169 towers will be constructed.
And under agriculture, livestock and fisheries, the minister informed the House that government is developing farming blocks, which are areas where high technology agriculture will be deployed to produce large stocks for domestic consumption and for processing into agro-export goods. And he said that it is from these farming blocks where technology-based farming can produce large stocks comprising competitively rather, and be able to export to the world at large.
And under transport and logistics, the Minister of Finance did report to the House that the rehabilitation of the Chingola-Kasumbalesa road started this year, and the works have since reached 70% and will be completed before the end of this year. And he did attest to the fact that everyone who has been on the Chingola-Kasumbalesa road has
Order,
been
honorable members, we have a long day. When business was suspended, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning, and that the House do now resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2024 to 31st December 2024, together with the annual borrowing plan presented to the National Assembly in September 2023. May the Honorable Minister continue.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. We may now continue I just completed the economic transformation part of the speech, and now I'm going to go to the human and social development part of the statement. Madam Speaker, talking about education, government will continue to increase access to quality education through infrastructure development. Over the last decade, government commenced the construction of 115 secondary schools whose construction had stalled. Madam Speaker, yes, this stalled under the PF period. Madam Speaker, during the past 2 years, government has been allocating money to complete these high schools that had been abandoned. We have since completed 69 schools, while the remaining 46 are still under construction and will be completed in 2025. Government targets to construct an additional 202 secondary schools. Of these, 82 are under construction and will be completed in 2024, while construction of the remaining 120 secondary schools will commence in 2024. Madam, in addition to the construction of schools, government has been increasing the capacity of existing schools through the construction of classrooms. As it ends August 2023, a total of 3,132 classrooms were built under CDF. Madam Speaker, access to online educational services is mainly along the line of rail. Leveraging on extensive national coverage of fiber networks, government will roll out the e-learning management system aimed at ensuring easy access to online teaching and learning. In addition, government, with cooperating partners, is collaborating to improve internet connectivity in rural schools. Madam Speaker, to improve the quality of education, government has continued to recruit teachers and provide teaching and learning materials. You recall, Madam Speaker, last year when I presented the 2023 budget, this government promised to employ more teachers. I'm glad to report that the process for hiring these extra 4,500 teachers has begun. But, Madam Speaker, that is not the end of the matter. In 2024, another 4,200 teachers, and 1,000 non-teaching staff will be recruited. Madam Speaker, the government has shown its commitment to the education sector through these large expenditures. Government wishes to caution our district education management staff to enforce good behavior and discipline in schools. In particular, the practice of teachers shunning rural places must end. Madam, to improve the learning environment, we are committed that no learner should sit on the floor. Progress has been made in the procurement of school desks. As at end August 2023, over 442,000 desks has been procured, mostly using CDF. Our target is to procure 1 million desks. All these desks, Madam Speaker, they are not being bought from South Africa, they are not being bought from China, they are not being bought from Tanzania, they are not being bought from Lusaka, they are bought within the community. Madam Speaker, this indeed is job creation in our rural areas. Madam Speaker, government will continue to prioritize the provision of quality and relevant vocational skills by equipping training centers with modern equipment. This will align skills of TVET graduates to industry requirements. Madam, through enhanced CDF provision, skilled builders have become relatively scarce, especially in rural areas, because the number of building jobs is on the rise. It was in anticipation of this shortage that we urged youth to step forward to be trained in building skills. After they have been trained, the youth will undergo apprenticeship until they have enough skills to be awarded contracts in their own right. Madam Speaker, going on to health, government will continue to prioritize the provision of quality health care services. This will be achieved through the development of infrastructure, recruitment of health personnel, as well as provision of medicines and medical supplies. Madam, to improve health infrastructure, government has completed the construction of 12 mini hospitals out of the planned 16 this year. This brings the total number of completed mini hospitals under Phase 1 to 111 out of a target of 115. The remaining 4 mini hospitals in Fanyama, Lusaka, Mpongwe, and Mfumba districts will be completed in 2024. In addition, government has this year constructed 62 maternity annexes, of which 19 were financed from the Constituency Development Fund. In 2024, government will construct 30 maternity annexes. Further, the construction of 135 mini hospitals under Phase 2 will commence across the country. Madam Speaker, government acknowledges that the supply of essential medicines and medical supply has been inadequate. Let me assure the general public that we are working on ensuring that essential medicines and medical supplies are available in our health facilities. To this end, we have adopted a hybrid supply chain system that relies on both the health center kit and bulk supply systems. We have secured 42,000 health center kits and expected to last until mid-2024. We have secured 42,000 health center kits, which are expected to last until mid-2024. To ensure a steady supply, government has commenced the procurement of the next batch. Under the bulk supply system, the first batch is expected to arrive before the end of this year. So, no more shortages of drugs. Madam, government is collaborating with stakeholders to establish a local pharmaceuticals manufacturing strategy. This will promote domestic production of pharmaceuticals and enhance the resilience of the supply chain in the country and contribute to job creation. Madam Speaker, last year, as I presented the 2023 budget, I did promise that in this year, 2023, 3,000 health personnel will be recruited. Madam Speaker, I want to confirm that the recruitment of these 3,000 health personnel has commenced. This, therefore, fulfills the promise I made in the 2023 budget. In 2024, an additional 4,000 health personnel will be recruited. Madam Speaker, as the campaign in 2021, people used to say in the Western Province, HH means have blessing, have me, which Meaning, Madam Speaker, when HH makes a declaration, it is a declaration in truthfulness. Madam, to increase access to cancer treatment locally, Government in 2024 commenced the construction of cancer treatment centers in Livingstone and Ndola. This will congest the cancer disease hospital in Lusaka and reduce the cost of sending cancer patients abroad. Further, government will upgrade radiotherapy equipment and infrastructure at the cancer disease hospital to improve the quality of service. Madam Speaker, to strengthen the healthcare management information system. Madam Speaker, to strengthen the healthcare management information system, government will scale up the implementation of the electronic health record system to 3,000 health facilities in the next 3 years from the current 600. What this means, Madam Speaker, just like when you are a bank customer, your branch is in Dollar, but you are in Livingstone, you want to access your records, you can do so. So what I'm talking about now will mean that if you are a resident of Kalabo, you find yourself in Zambia, you can access your health information. This system will therefore facilitate quick access to health records wherever and whenever they are required by the health personnel. In addition, the system will reduce the transaction costs associated with the manual processing and provide critical information for planning and resource management. Water and sanitation, Madam Speaker, as at end June 2023, a total of 634 boreholes equipped with hand pumps were constructed. We expect over 1,000 boreholes to be completed by the end of this year. These are distributed across the country and will benefit more than 52,000 households. Further, 130 piped water schemes were constructed, benefiting more than 13,000 households. Madam, to accelerate access to clean and safe water, government will in 2024 construct 1,374 boreholes and rehabilitate 1,270 boreholes across the country. Madam Speaker, to improve water supply and sanitation services, government has been implementing the Integrated Small Towns Project in Luapula, Mchinga, Northern and Western provinces. The project is scheduled to be completed in 2024 and will benefit over 193,000 households. I'm happy to report that the Kafula-Futa water supply system project, benefiting over 1 million people, will be completed by the end of this year. Steady progress is also being made on the Kazungula water supply and sanitation project, while works will commence this year on the Nkana water supply and sanitation project under phase 2. Madam, to provide adequate sanitation services, 6,000 households will be connected to sewer networks. These connections are being done by utility companies in Chipata, Kalurushi, Kitwe, Lusaka, Mongo, and Sesheke. Madam Speaker, in line with the directive by President Ichilema, government will in 2024 construct 168 waterborne sanitation facilities in the public places and institutions across the country. Madam, to harness water resources and ensure national water security, government this year commenced the construction of 16 multipurpose dams, mostly in water-stressed prone areas. The dams are in central, eastern Luapula, northern, northwestern, and southern provinces. It is estimated that 15.7 million cubic meters of water will be harvested, benefiting over 22,000 households. Madam Speaker, to enhance and prolong the lifespan of existing dams, government is rehabilitating 6 dams in Central, Eastern, Muchinga, Northern, and Northwestern provinces. In 2024, 6 more dams will be rehabilitated in Eastern and Southern provinces. Social protection. Madam Speaker, the new Dawn administration is a caring government. I repeat, the new Dawn administration is a caring government. Over the past 2 years, we've demonstrated our commitment to social protection. We will continue to support the poor and vulnerable through various social protection programs. Social cash transfers are timely, Madam Speaker, unlike in the past when availability will not be guaranteed. Now the social cash transfers are timely. We have, Madam Speaker, we have reduced the waiting time for payment of pension benefits. As promised, we have implemented the partial withdrawal of pension benefits under NAPSA. Madam, in my last address to this House, I promised to reduce the waiting period for pensioners under the local authorities' superannuation fund. Madam Speaker, I'm happy to report that government has cleared all pensioners under local government from 2017 to 2021, reducing the waiting period from 5 years to only 1 year. By the end of 2024, Madam Speaker, the local authorities' superannuation funds will be paying workers as and when they retire on time. Madam Speaker, as a commitment towards uplifting the livelihoods of the poor and vulnerable, government increased the number of beneficiary households on social cash transfer to 1,100,908. With regards to the food security pack, the number of beneficiaries' households has increased to 242,000 from 241,000 last year. Madam, to alleviate immediate challenges faced by the most vulnerable, government will 2024 increase allocation under the Public Welfare Assistance Program to cater for 40,000 beneficiaries from the current 16. Madam Speaker, the Girls' Education and Women's Empowerment and Livelihoods Project provides livelihood support for women and access to secondary school education for girls in extremely poor households. There are currently 116,890 beneficiaries in 76 districts. For next year, we are targeting 129,400 beneficiaries in 81 districts. On environmental sustainability, Madam Speaker, to adequately prepare and respond timely to adverse weather conditions, government will expand the coverage and enhance early warning systems. So far, 86 automatic weather stations have been installed, and an additional 34 will be installed by the end of this year. In 2024, government will install 50 automatic weather stations in addition. Madam, climate-related risks also pose increasing threats to the stability of the financial system. In 2024, the government will enhance the legal and regulatory framework to support green finance and entrench environmentally friendly practices in the financial sector. Madam Speaker, to address rigidities in processing the environmental impact assessment by ZEMA, government will review specific provisions in law to shorten the time taken to issue decision letters. This will ensure that decisions on complete applications are made within the specified time period beyond which it will be deemed to have been approved. So the days of Zima delaying these decisions will be over very soon. On governance, to strengthen oversight in the use of public resources and enhance transparency and accountability, government undertook a diagnostic assessment and published the report in December last year. The assessment identified governance weaknesses and corruption vulnerabilities and recommended measures to address them. Government to ensure that these recommendations are implemented. Madam, to further enhance good governance practices in the delivery of public services, government in promoting the integration of risk management in the public sector. This is in line with the requirement of the Public Finance Act. Madam Speaker, New Dawn administration will continue to undertake legal, structural, and policy reforms to support growth and development. The reforms relate to fiscal policy, domestic resource mobilization, debt management, decentralization, public-private partnerships, and public investment management, among others. Fiscal policy. Madam Speaker, we're coming close to the budget. The overarching fiscal objective in 2024 will be to reduce the budget deficit on a cash basis to 4.8% of GDP from the projected outturn of 5.8% this year. This will be achieved mainly through efficiency gains in domestic resource mobilizations efforts and will result in revenue collections of at least 22% of GDP. Government will continue to rationalize expenditure with priority placed in areas that spur economic growth and infrastructure development, CDF, and bantering of arrears. Madam, to enhance fiscal transparency and budget credibility, the government will produce a fiscal risk statement on an annual basis. Madam Speaker, the government will ensure that tax and non-tax policies, and this is important for investors, government will ensure that tax and non-tax policies remain stable and predictable. Because we've seen over the years, when taxes are always going up and down, this discourages investment. In addition, various incentives will be streamlined, systems digitalized, and administrative capacities enhanced. Madam Speaker, revenue mobilization will continue to be anchored on sealing revenue leakages and improving service delivery in tax administration. Government will enhance compliance by implementing tax administrative interventions, by leveraging on technology and changing the operating model for the Zambia Revenue Authority. Madam Speaker, the government will implement the electronic invoicing system, and it's important to hear this clearly. Madam, government will implement the electronic invoice system, which will enable the Zambia Revenue Authority to have real-time access to business transactions. The system will prevent the old habit of using fake invoices in VAT refund claims and ensure that only qualifying entities claim deductions. With this system in place, all those who have issued false invoices to evade taxes, your days are numbered. And when caught, Madam Speaker, you are on your own. Madam Speaker, the growing digital economy presents an opportunity for Zambia to further expand the tax base and collect more revenue from non-resident suppliers. Government will therefore put in place a legal framework and strategies to implement taxation of the cross-border electronic services. Madam, Government will also review global developments in digital service taxation for income tax purposes. Further, to pursue efficient international taxation and combat tax evasion, Zambia will join the Global Forum on Tax Transparency and Exchange of Information for Tax Purposes. Madam Speaker, to consolidate provisions relating to tax administration, Government will in 2024 commence consultation to introduce a Unified Tax Administration Act. This act will, among others, enable the harmonization of tax treatment across different tax types and easy tax administration. Further, Madam Speaker, and this is again important, further, Madam Speaker, Government will in 2024 amend the Zambia Revenue Authority Act to introduce a whistleblower reward. This will enable the reward of whistleblowers who disclose information leading to the recovery of tax. Debt management. Madam Speaker, to restore debt sustainability, the Government has been undertaking an external debt restructuring exercise with official creditors under the G20 Common Framework. Following the agreement in principle that was reached in June this year with official creditors, a memorandum of understanding will be executed between the parties. To ensure that the interests of all parties are covered, the technical aspects of the MOU are being refined, and we are confident that they will be finalized and executed before the end of the year. Madam Speaker, Government has also continued to engage commercial creditors, including Eurobond holders, to seek a debt treatment comparable to what has been agreed with official creditors. Madam Speaker, as part of our debt management strategy, Government remains committed to contracting only concessional loans in the medium term. Madam, high interest rates continue to characterize the government securities market, thereby increasing the cost on the Treasury. To address this, the government is progressively reducing the size of the fiscal deficit. In addition, the e-bond trading platform has been extended to include retail investors to promote competition, improve liquidity, and enhance price discovery. Further, government remains committed to issuing government securities through auctions only and avoid private placement. Decentralization. Madam Speaker, to address socioeconomic inequalities, government will ensure that decentralization by devolution is fully implemented in the medium term. In this regard, all the 8 functions in Phase 1 have been devolved to local authorities, with 34,000, almost 35,000 civil servants attached. Matching financial resources for the devolved functions will be allocated to the local authorities in 2024. Madam, to ensure that the capacities of the local authorities are strengthened, Government is implementing the Zambia Devolution Support Program. The program focuses on fiscal decentralization and financial management and local areas planning and budgeting governance and human resource management of the local authorities. Madam Speaker, to ensure efficient utilization of CDF, Government has delegated the authority to approve projects through the provincial administration from the Ministry of Local Government. To improve operational efficiency, Government has also delegated Treasury Authority to principal officers in local authorities to vary committed funds within the component of community projects. So there's no need of coming to Lusaka to say we are varying funds. Madam, with the increased allocation towards CDF, all constituencies will be required to facilitate the provision of water, recreation, and other services. Madam, government will also review the CDF Act 2018 and the Public Procurement Act of 2020 to further strengthen citizens' participation and streamline the procurement processes. This will mean that bureaucratic and regulatory barriers will no longer be there. If there will be delays in implementing CDF, it is because of the members of staff at the given council. Madam Speaker, government will conduct carrying out capacity assessment for each district and constituency to establish the ability to deliver public service effectively and efficiently. Madam Speaker, according to the Living Condition Monitoring Survey conducted in 2020, the poverty rate increased to 60% from 54.4% in 2015. Consistent with the strategies in the 8th National Development Plan, government is undertaking various interventions to unlock the potential of the economy, raise growth, and increase household income. Madam Speaker, on national registration information, our national identity documents are manual and therefore prone to abuse. In this regard, government is promoting the use of biometric identity documents through the Integrated National Registration Information System, simply called INRIS. This system will assign a unique national identification number at birth as opposed to when a citizen attains the age of 16. It will also eliminate the current instances of duplicate NRCs and the need to provide photocopies of the identity cards whenever one wants to access services. Madam, the system also eliminates costly silo approaches to the delivery of public services. Monetary policy. Madam Speaker, when there is rapid increase in general prices or inflation, those with low incomes tend to be most affected. Further, high inflation disrupts business planning. It is for this reason, Madam Speaker, that Bank of Zambia's primary objective will remain to work towards bringing inflation to within the 6 to 8% target range. Madam Speaker, as they do so, we recognize that some aspects of inflation, such as increase in food prices, have experienced and that I've already alluded to are not easily addressed at the tools in the central bank. Financial sector policy. Madam Speaker, following the issuance of the commencement of the Bank of Zambia Act, Financial Stability Committee will become operational in 2024. This committee will, among others, formulate macroprudential policies to achieve and maintain financial system stability. Madam Speaker, the cost of borrowing remains high. With the economic reforms we have undertaken since coming into office, including the significant reduction in the budget deficit, we expect yield rates on commercial securities to fall. Lower government borrowing also means that there is more money available for the private sector. We therefore urge the banks, commercial banks, to play their part in lowering interest rates. Madam Speaker, on financial inclusion, given that the growth in the use of mobile money is an important channel for financial inclusion, improving internet connectivity is critical in increasing the number of people who are financially included. The policies I've outlined to expand the network will improve this. Madam Speaker, a second key constraint to financial inclusion is financial literacy, and this is being addressed by the Bank of Zambia through the Go Cashless Awareness campaign. External sector support. Madam Speaker, the government will continue to maintain flexible exchange rates. In this regard, government will cushion the economy through adequate external shocks by accumulating adequate international reserves. And Madam Speaker, there will also be a lot of promotion for exports. Madam Speaker, government remains committed to enhancing the quality of balance of payment statistics and strengthen the anti-money laundering and combat of financing of terrorism. Let me now go to the 2024 budget. Madam Speaker, government proposes to spend almost 180 billion or 27.8% of GDP. To support this expenditure, 141 billion or 22% of GDP will be domestic revenue, 3.4%, 3.4 billion or 0.6 will be grants from cooperating partners. You can see very clearly that in fact the contribution from cooperating partners has become very small, and this is good because we have to learn to fend for ourselves. Accounting for the deficit, Madam Speaker, is envisaged to be 4.8% of GDP. I now present the details of the proposed expenditure, revenue, and attendant borrowing for the 2024 budget. Madam Speaker, to promote efficient, effective, and equitable public service delivery across districts, I've allocated 1.4 billion to the Local Government Equalization Fund, which will be turned into a recurrent grant as opposed to capital cost grant, capital expenditure grants, starting in 2024. This will, among others, support better remuneration of councillors and so this Local Government Equalization Fund will, among others, support better remuneration of councillors and give local authorities more power to make decisions. Madam Speaker, the government proposes to spend 39.8 billion or 22.3% of the budget to support economic sectors and unlock the growth potential of our country. The substantial resources allocated to this function are in line with our priorities espoused in the 8th National Development Plan. Madam, of the allocated funds to the economic function, 8.3 billion is for the construction, rehabilitation, and the maintenance of roads, including feeder roads across the country. The provision of 8.3 billion on the road sector is an increase of almost 60% of what we provided for last year or this year. Madam Speaker, I've allocated 13.8 billion kwacha. I have allocated 13.8 billion for the implementation of programs under the agriculture, fisheries, and livestock sector. Of this amount, 8.6 billion is for the fertilizer input support program to cover over 1 million beneficiaries. So FISIP is not dead, FISIP is still there. About 77% of the FISIP is finished. About 77% of the beneficiaries of FISIP will receive support through the e-voucher system. Government has also allocated 1.7 billion for the maintenance of strategic food reserves. Madam Speaker, the completion of the development of the identified farm blocks will be a game changer to boosting agricultural production and productivity. In this regard, I've allocated 598 million kwacha towards the farm blocks. This amount will go towards the construction of at least 300 kilometers of roads and 10 bridges, as well as electrification that I indicated earlier on. Madam, I've increased the allocation to the Zambia Credit Guarantee Scheme to 386 million from 150 million this year. Of this amount, 186 is for the establishment of a financing in credit window for small-scale farmers, public service workers, and emergent farmers. Madam Speaker, I have allocated 498.8 million towards the procurement of vaccines, animal health extension services, and surveillance animal identification, and put into operation regional veterinary laboratories. So there should be less diseases now for our livestock. Madam, to promote diversification in the mining sector, I propose to spend 160 million on geological mapping to support the exploration and investments. Madam Speaker, to ensure that more resources are directly provided to communities for local governments, including basic services such as clean and safe water, maternity wings, and school desks, I propose to increase the allocation to CDF. I propose to increase the allocation to CDF to 4.8 billion kwacha. With this increase, each constituency will receive. Okay. Madam Speaker, I propose to increase the allocation to CDF to 4.8 billion kwacha. Madam Speaker, with this increase, each constituency will receive 30.6 million kwacha.
Order, honorable members, order.
Madam Speaker, I'm sure with this, when I was talking about rural roads being fixed, it's now clear because more resources are being given to the honorable MPs and the communities. Madam, to promote entrepreneurship among our people, I propose to allocate 391, almost 392 million kwacha to the Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission. This is in addition to other empowerment funds under CDF, Gender Division, and the Ministers of Community Development and Social Services, Youth and Sport and Arts. Madam Speaker, to improve air transport and ensure that Zambia becomes a regional hub for air connectivity, I propose to spend 701 million kwacha on provincial airdromes. The allocation is earmarked The allocation is earmarked for the rehabilitation and upgrade of Mansa, Mbala, Mongo, Solwezi, and the development of new ones at Chinsali, Choma, and Cassava Bay. Madam, I've allocated 770 million kwacha, and this is unprecedented. Madam, I've allocated 770 million kwacha to the tourism sector for the development of tourism infrastructure, marketing, wildlife management, and the development of tourism products. Madam Speaker, to improve access to affordable loans for public servants, I've allocated 150 million to the Public Service Microfinance Company. Education. Madam Speaker, to lay a firm foundation for our children to develop into productive and innovative citizens, I propose to spend 27.4 billion, or 15.4%, on the budget for education function. Of the allocated funds, I propose to spend 1.9 billion kwacha on grants to schools in line with our free education policy. Madam Speaker, schools are receiving grants, not the 300 kwacha they used to receive. Now, Madam Speaker, previously, schools used to receive 300 kwacha per term if it came. Now, Madam Speaker, a school receives between 80,000 to about 12,000 kwacha per term. Madam Speaker, you know that PTA were not able to pay that money. In addition, Madam Speaker, I propose to increase the allocation to the school feeding program from 39.4 million kwacha to 100.7 million kwacha. And Madam Speaker, this is, of course, Madam Speaker, this is part of the response to the escalated food prices so that our children can be able to eat and learn. Madam Speaker, to continue with the program of completing the abandoned schools, those schools that were abandoned from 2011 by my colleagues across there, I propose to spend 338 million kwacha in 2024. Madam Speaker, I propose an allocation of 70 million kwacha for equipping TVET training centers with modern equipment. Madam Speaker, to improve service delivery in the education sector, I propose to allocate 356 kwacha for the recruitment of 5,400 personnel. Of these, water, but also maybe we listen. Madam Speaker, to improve service delivery in the education sector, I propose to recruit 4,200 teachers and 1,200 non-teaching staff in the year 2024. And for this, I'm proposing to spend 356 million kwacha. Madam Speaker, I propose to increase. We know, Madam Speaker, that there is not enough funding for higher education And therefore, I propose to increase the allocation to the Higher Education Loans and Scholarship Board to 1.2 billion kwacha. This, Madam Speaker, will increase this will increase the number of students benefiting from the loan scheme. Under health, Madam Speaker, to support the delivery of health services, I propose to allocate 20.9 billion kwacha, or 11.8% of the budget. Of this amount, 5 billion is for the procurement of medicines and medical supplies. Madam, to increase access to health care for our citizens, I propose to allocate 1.4 billion towards health care infrastructure and development across the country, including those main hospitals I spoke about earlier. Of this amount, 240 million will go towards completion of the remaining 4 main hospitals in phase 1 and the commencement of the construction of 135 main hospitals under phase 2 of the project. Madam Speaker, to improve the quality of health care, I propose the recruitment of 4,000 healthcare personnel. I repeat, to improve the quality of health care, I propose that 4,000 health personnel be employed in 2024. And for this, 344 million has been provided. Madam, to strengthen the healthcare and management information system, I propose to allocate 120 million. Under housing and community assistance, 2.7 billion has been provided. Of this, 443 million is for the construction of 28 dams that I spoke about and the rehabilitation of 6 dams. This is in line with the government's procurement commitment to promote irrigation. Madam Speaker, to improve and ensure our citizens have clean and safe water, I've allocated 127 million kwacha for the construction of 1,374 boreholes. I've further provided 8.5 million for the rehabilitation of non-functional boreholes, totaling 1,217. Madam Speaker, under public order and safety, I've allocated 6.8 billion towards public order and safety functions. Of this allocation, 250 million will be for the implementation of the Integrated National Registration Information System, and also to rehabilitate prison infrastructure. Under social protection, I propose to allocate 9.7 billion for social protection related expenditures. Of this amount, 4.1 billion is for the social cash transfer program. Madam, for pensioners, I propose to increase the allocation of the Public Service Pension Fund to 3.9 billion from 2.4 billion. I've also increased the allocation to the Local Authorities Superannuation Fund to 400 million from 300. With these allocations, we will be current no retirees from the public sector who wait more than 3 months before they get their benefits, as opposed to the time when they used to wait for 5 years, Madam Speaker. Environmental protection, I propose to spend 1.5 billion towards environmental protection. Other functions, Madam Speaker, I propose to allocate 10.4 billion to the functions of defense, as well as recreation, culture, and religion. Revenue estimates. Madam Speaker, government intends to raise 180 billion to meet the proposed expenditure. This amount will comprise 141 billion in domestic revenue, of which 115 will be tax revenue, while 26.5 billion will be non-tax revenue. Grants from corporate and partners, as I said, 3.4 billion. Madam, 33.3 billion will be financed through debt in accordance with the annual borrowing plan. Of this amount, 16.3 billion will be domestic and 17 billion external financing. Madam Speaker, there has been an understandable concern on the tax burden, especially given the rise in the cost of living. Even in the midst of this tight fiscal space, it is imperative that we provide some relief to the worker. In this regard, I propose to revise the pay-as-you-earn by increasing the exempt threshold to 5,100 kwacha and reducing the top rate to 37% from 37.5%. Madam, to promote investment in power generation, I propose to increase the period in which a business can claim a refund on VAT incurred on eligible goods before the commencement of commercial operations to 7 years from the current 4 years. Madam Speaker, to promote geothermal energy, I propose to remove customs duty on machinery, equipment, and other goods designed for geothermal energy activities. Madam Speaker, to spur growth in the media and film industry, I propose to expand the list of selected media, film, and music equipment for which custom duties were suspended in the 2023 budget. The relief on the customs duty will be for a period of 3 years. Madam Speaker, to promote investment in manufacturing, I propose the following. A, extend the 2% local content allowance on income earned from value addition to sorghum and millet. This joins other products already under the schedule. Madam Speaker, B, increase company income tax relief to 20% from 14.2% of the taxable profit for the first 5 years of operation for business in rural areas. C, provides for the allowance of losses of up to 1% on cut, rag, shredded tobacco in the production of cigarettes. D, remove customs duty on importation of motorcycles and tricycles imported in complete knockdown form for companies that assemble and source at least 5% of inputs locally. This is to support the assembly of these items in the country. A, introduce, remove, and increase selected goods tax on some products. F, increase customs duty to 25% from 15% on electrical panels. And J, reduce excise duty rate by 50% on locally produced clear beer for small and medium manufacturers that produce less than 500,000 liters. So for those who want to do small breweries, this is the time to do it. Madam, as part of our drive to unlock economic potential, government will provide incentives to revitalize industry value chains. I repeat, Madam, as part of our drive to unlock economic potential, government will provide incentives to revitalize industry value chains. For a start, I propose the following incentive for the cotton value chain. A 5% tax holiday on profit for local producers of cotton seed. B, provide a 5-year tax holiday on profit from ginning of cotton. And C, a 10-year tax holiday on profits made from spinning of cotton and weaving of thread. Madam Speaker, to improve railway operation, I propose to remove customs duty on the importation of rolling stock, namely wagons and locomotives. Madam, to continue promoting the usage of clean energy as well as supporting the green economy, I propose the following. A, remove customs duty on electric motorcycles, electric vehicles, electric buses, electric trucks, and attendant accessories such as charging systems. B, reduce excise duty to 25% from 30% on hybrid vehicles designed for the transportation of persons. Madam, to promote the development of multi-facility economic zones by the private sector, I propose the following measures. A, extend the accelerated depreciation up to 100% in respect of any new implement, plant or machinery to developers of multi-facility economic zones. B, provide for the extension and the validity period for the customs duty on incentives accessible by developers of an MPhase for 5 years upon fulfillment of the conditions as may be prescribed. Madam Speaker, to promote oil and gas exploration, I propose to remove customs duty on machinery, equipment, and other goods designed for petroleum exploration. Madam Speaker, contrary to assertions that incentives are only meant to benefit foreign investors, I wish to categorically state that all incentives that government provides, including the ones I've just announced today, are available to all local and foreign investors without exception. Madam, to enhance domestic revenue mobilization, I propose the following measures. A, increase specific duty on non-alcoholic beverages to 60% per liter from 13 ngwe per liter. B, increase specific excise duty for tobacco and tobacco products to 400 kwacha per million from 361 per million. C, increase excise duty at 5% on specific fuels made from coal. D, change the excise duty on valuation method for spirits, liqueurs, and other spirituous beverages to be determined on the basis of market price and not the value of inputs at importation. Madam Speaker, to ensure that everyone contributes something, however small, to the provision of public services, I propose to introduce a levy of between 8 ngwe, that is 0.8, and 1 kwacha 8 ngwe on the transaction value for person-to-person mobile money transfers. Non-tax revenues. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I further make the following proposals. A, introduce a fee of 3,750 kwacha for DNA testing under the National Forensic Science and Biometrics Department. B, increase the license fee for commercial carpenter operators to 4,000 from 3,333, last reviewed in 2011. C, increase toll tariffs for heavy trucks with 4 axle and above by 100 kwacha, and abnormal load vehicles by 300 kwacha. Madam, in summary, the net effect of the revenue measures I've proposed is a gain of 721 million kwacha. Madam Speaker, all the measures outlined will take effect from 1st January 2024. Housekeeping measures, Madam Speaker, to update, strengthen, and remove ambiguities in certain provisions of the tax laws and make tax administration more effective, I propose to amend the Income Tax Act, the Customs and Excise Act, and the Value Added Tax, among others. Conclusion. Madam Speaker, the journey to economic transformation we embarked on 2021 requires us to unlock the potential of our country and build resilience through inclusiveness and partnerships. This calls for hard work and certainly not what we used to see of money being displayed by people who didn't work for it. It requires perseverance and discipline to achieve our standard vision. Madam, we are alive to the challenges confronting us, especially the high costs of meal meal. Your government is working toward addressing the high meal meal and fuel prices. We are also revamping the economy to create employment opportunities for our people. Madam Speaker, the journey to a better Zambia is a collective one. It requires active participation of all citizens. Together, we can overcome the challenges we face today. Together, we can build the Zambia we want. Together, we shall benefit from our wealth and prosperity. And together, we'll march towards our Vision 2030 of becoming a prosperous middle-income country. Madam Speaker, the budget I've presented today is a clear demonstration of our commitment to unlocking the economy, uplifting the livelihood of our people, and providing the conducive environment for the private sector participation. Madam Speaker, we have made strides. Madam Speaker, we have made strides, even restructuring the external debt that was left by our colleagues, and restoring fiscal discipline, which was absent in our colleagues. Madam Speaker, the announcements I've made today show very clearly that under UPND, money is not for playing around with. Money is for providing for the people of Zambia. We have increased the allocation to infrastructure development. We have provided incentives to the private people. Madam Speaker, we have done so much to uplift these children of this country who were being left behind because they could not afford to pay school fees. Madam Speaker, those who are saying Jala, they forget that they were leaving behind half of the population because they didn't care for their education. Madam Speaker, as if this is not enough, we have continued to recruit teachers and health workers because there were no teachers and health workers before. We have strengthened social protection. We have reduced the waiting period for pensions for the workers who used to stay hungry for years and years because they're not being paid. We have resolved challenges of KCM and Mopani, and we are attracting more investment in the mining sector. Madam, we have yet increased the allocation to CDF, which our colleagues never bothered to give us. Madam Speaker, this is indeed a working government, and I beg to move.
Order, honorable members, order. Order. The question is that the House do now resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2024 to 31st December 2024, together with the annual borrowing plan presented to the National Assembly in September 2023. Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Katuba.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Katuba to give this presentation of the adjournment for the speech. Madam Speaker, I thank you for giving me and the people of Katuba this opportunity to be the first ones to speak on the motion of supply that has just been moved by the Minister of Finance and National Planning. Madam Speaker, firstly, allow me to congratulate the Minister of Finance and National Planning for the able manner and the eloquent way in which he has moved the motion of supply and presented the 2024 budget. Madam Speaker, the speech that has just been delivered by the Minister of Finance and National Planning has raised a number of important issues that should now be given an opportunity to be raised and ensure that we think about it as we go onto this research. Madam Speaker, a number of important issues have been raised on the economy of our country. I am therefore, Madam Speaker, of the view that we defer the debate of this motion to Tuesday, 3rd October 2023, so that all honorable members have ample time to read and carefully analyze the speech. Madam Speaker, this will enable members of Parliament to come back next week well prepared.
Order, order, honorable members.
To come back next week, Madam Speaker, well prepared and well analyzed of this budget and the budget speech so that they can debate this budget meaningfully and objectively. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Order, honorable members, is defer. Any further debate? The honorable member for Isoka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I thank you for according me this opportunity to support the proposal by the Honorable Member for Katuba that the debate on the motion of supply moved by the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning be deferred to Tuesday, 3rd October 2023. Honorable members who agree with me that the issues contained in the budget speech have an impact on the lives of the people that we are privileged to represent in this House, and therefore we require sufficient time to start the speech. Madam, for this reason...
Order, honorable members, let's listen. Proceed, honorable member.
Madam, for this reason, I agree with my honorable colleague that more time be given to honorable members to carefully study and analyze the speech which has just been presented, so that we can engage meaningfully starting next Tuesday. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Question.
Order. Order, honorable members. I can see the honorable member of Nkana looking enviously at the honorable member for Isoka. Order. The proposal is that debate on the motion of supply be adjourned to Tuesday, 3rd October 2023. Any objection? I see none. The proposal... Order, honorable members. I'm warning you. The proposal is agreed to. The debate on the motion is adjourned to Tuesday, 3rd October 2023. Her Honor, the Vice President, adjournment. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the House do now adjourn. The question is that the House do now adjourn. Any debate? Any objection? The question is agreed to. The House? The House is now adjourned.
Good afternoon. There you have it, the 177.9 billion kwacha 2024 national budget has been unveiled by Finance and National Planning Minister Dr. Stumbeko Musokotwani under the theme Unlocking Economic Potential. And before we join our colleagues outside, as they'll be getting reactions from invited guests and members of Parliament, we'll have a brief recap of the speech or the address by the Finance Minister, Colin.
Yes, Claudette, the speech today was based on the policies for 2024, and the Minister did indicate to the House that this is based on the development strategy for the country as outlined in the 8th National Development Plan. and is premised on the key thematic areas, and these are the economic transformation and job creation, human and social development, environmental sustainability, and good governance environment. So those were the policies. These are the policies on which this speech is based. And of course, the minister did go on to highlight quite a number of issues in the speech according to what government has planned for the year 2024.
Like we mentioned earlier on, the minister did talk about key interventions that will support economic transformation and job creation, and these include agriculture, livestock and fisheries, tourism, mining, manufacturing, small and medium enterprises, energy, transport and logistics. And so the minister did say that government is working on ensuring that essential medicines and medical supplies are made available in health facilities by adopting a hybrid supply chain system. The minister in his address did say that the recruitment of 3,000 health personnel has commenced and is expected to be completed by the end of this year, and that 4,200 teachers will be recruited next year, that's 2024, and 1,200 non-teaching staff will be recruited. And 13.8 billion kwacha is meant for the implementation of programs under the agriculture, fisheries and livestock sector. Allocation of CDF has been increased to 4.8 billion kwacha, meaning each constituency will now receive 30.6 million kwacha from the current 28.3 million kwacha, and pay as you earn has been revised to 5,100 kwacha from 4,800 kwacha, and reducing the top rate to 37.0% from 37.5%. Pauline.
Yes, and of course the minister has also proposed some incentives to some sectors, and he has also made some proposals to promote local investment in the manufacturing sector, and therefore he has made the following proposals. That is the first one. He did indicate that the government intends to have 2% local content allowance on income earned from value addition sorghum and millet, and this is in addition to other products that are already benefiting from this incentive, namely cassava, mango, pineapple, tomato, and pineapples and tomatoes. He also made a proposal that government intends to increase company income tax relief to 20% from 14.2% of the taxable profits for the first 5 years of operation for businesses in rural areas, and this is to attract rural investors. He also said government also intends to provide for the allowance of losses up to 1% on cut rag, shredded tobacco in the production of cigarettes, among others.
All right, so that's just a brief of the address that was made by Finance and National Planning Minister Dr. Tumbeko Musokotwane. 177.9 billion kwacha for the 2024 national budget. Just now, we have reactions from within National Assembly of Zambia building.
Well, thank you so much, Claudette and Pauline, for that interesting recapping. The minister has unveiled the 178 billion 2024 national budget. Very interesting, and I'm sure people out there, some of the pronouncements have been made by the Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Exactly, Forces. And earlier on, before the minister unveiled the 2024 national budget, remember we did talk about the Community Development Fund, and this year in the 2024 national budget, we see